Mr. Speaker!
He has not eaten since morning, please. Whose shoes are those ones? I knew it. Yeah. Bunch of late comments. Bunch of late comments.
Going to the president.
Prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this youth impact parliament. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the executive director of the movement. Endow members of parliament with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of this youth parliament, the interests and wishes of members will be well and truly served, and thy good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us a vision of our youth parliament, fair as it might be, a fraternity of righteousness, where none shall rob his neighbor, a fraternity of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a fraternity of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service and honor to the deserving, a fraternity of peace, where the youth parliament shall rest on the will of its members and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming duty of youth impact parliament and Ghana. Amen. Please may resume your seats. Honorable members seated on both sides of the house. This house is privileged to have the presence of Honorable Kofi Attor. Special advisor to the Right Honorable Dodzi, the Speaker of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana, a former member of Parliament for Whole Central Constituency of Parliaments of the Republic of Ghana, a long-standing member of the National Democratic Congress at the national, regional, and constituency level, board chairman of Maui Senior High School, one of our patrons of Youth Impact Movement, and other numerous capacities here in this house this afternoon. Is here as our distinguished guest of honor for the 2nd anniversary special business of youth impact movement. Welcome, Honorable. With him and on behalf of leadership in the House, it is my singular honor to welcome Lawyer Dodzi, Adugu, SQ. Senior State Attorney, lawyer to numerous organizations, Water Regional Secretary of Ghana Bar Association, and other numerous capacities here in this house this afternoon, as our distinguished guest speaker for our second anniversary special business of Youth Impact Movement. Welcome, Lawyer. Honorable members, also present here is Sergeant Kwame Otibu Jan, who is with Ghana Police Service, Full District. Welcome, sir. Also present here is a senior consultant and influencer, Mr. Desmante. Honorable members, we also have here Mr. Amanor David Narh, one of our co-founders of Youth Impact Movement in these branches, who is also the Deputy Executive Director of YIM Chapter, Parliamentary Affairs, the majority leader of this house, Chairman of the and Youth Member of Parliament representing Ningo Prampram constituency. Honorable members, also present here is Mr. Francis Kodzi, who is acting as the minority leader, Chairman of Committee on Democracy and Good Governance, and Youth MP for Afram North. Honorable members, also present here as our distinguished leaders of the House on both sides of the aisle. I acknowledge you all. Thank you for coming. And you can also see our beautiful flags. They are also here, beautifully robed in their appropriate robes. To save time, I'll skip some of the introductions so that we can carry on the business. But it is very important to know for the records who is presiding. So I am Jones Amegashie-Viglo, founder of Youth Impact Movement in these branches, Executive Director of YIM and Speaker of the House. Honourable members, I'll proceed with our welcome address. I want to welcome you all here once again. For the records, Youth Impact Movement was founded on 22nd of April 2021. Youth Impact Parliament started on 8th August 2021, and Youth Impact Foundation started on the 22nd of April 2022. This anniversary is not mega because it is not really a milestone. However, it is worth celebrating because we are an upcoming and vibrant youth organization in Ghana and to the world. Our purpose is to touch the lives of youth by building their capacities in public speaking, parliamentary business, social norms and value. And our growth is worth celebrating. That is why we are here today. Honourable members, I therefore bring on your indulgence to listen to the items and few presentations that will be done commemorating our anniversary. Our guests of honor and guest speaker present here are quite a blend with respect to our purpose. We have here a legislator who makes the law, and also a lawyer who tests the law. Honourable members, I think that bill is one of your hearings. So kindly make notes from the wisdom you share with us to commemorate our anniversary. Before they will speak, we'll have two presentations, of which one will talk about testimonies of our impact, and one will talk about who we are. So I believe on you all to give us the listening ear as we have those fundamental presentations before we listen to our guests. So in this one accord, I want to humbly honor the acting minority leader of the House and new friendly for Afram Mr. Francis Kodzi, to share with us testimonies pertaining to our existence from day one to now. Honorable, you may now speak.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker in the House. My name is Francis Kodzi, Youth MP for North. Mr. Speaker, it is my joy to state some testimony that we received so far from our observers. This person is not a youth MP. He is just an observer, but has been well impacted by all that we've been doing here. So the person is by the name Daniel Sakwe Banfo. He said, "It is my joy to state that the Youth Impact Parliament has really taught me a lot. For my few days of always trying to observe their sittings, I have learned a lot from both their guests and the MPs as well. It is a great joy that indeed the name Youth Impact Parliament has really impacted me. It is out of my observation that I have learned a lot, including knowing the fact that members of parliament are not agents of development, but rather they can only lobby. As those days I used to fight and insult them that they are supposed to make sure roads are done and all that, but today I can no longer do that because I've learned that also from Youth Impact Parliament. Youth Impact Parliament has also impacted me in a different way where now I am very bold and confident just being an observer. I want to thank the founders and the speaker for this great impact that they have made in my life as an observer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the House. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony on our impact. So, from now we move to a statement of who we are, and may I now call on the Deputy Executive Director of YIM, in charge of Parliamentary Affairs, the majority leader of the House, and the Ningo Prampram, Mr. Amanor, to read a statement on youth impact movement and its branches.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and the Guest House. Mr. Speaker, I respond to Amanor, Narh, Youth MP, Ningo Prampram constituency, and the Deputy Director in charge of Parliamentary Affairs. So this is a brief statement on how far we've come as far as our Parliament and the second Parliament is concerned. So, Mr. Speaker, guests of honor, invited guests, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, I count myself particularly privileged to be part of Youth Impact Parliament. Ever since its establishment, Youth Impact Parliament has continued to challenge the imaginations and aspirations of the youth in the democratic participation and governance proceedings and processes. All honorable members can testify that Youth Impact Parliament is given a tremendous exposure in parliamentary proceedings and processes and the capability in building leadership. Mr. Speaker, Youth Impact Parliament was established to create opportunities for the youth in leadership roles, public speaking skills, parliamentary business, social norms, and leadership. As the Deputy Executive Director of Youth Impact Movement in charge of parliamentary affairs and a majority leader of the Second Parliament, and also representing the Ningo Prampram constituency, I can say on record that this youth parliament is the most vibrant youth parliament in the entire country. Can I get a here for that? Yeah. Youth Impact Movement also has a chapter in Uganda, and we are hoping to open another chapter in other African countries soon. Mr. Speaker, looking at where Youth Impact Parliament is coming from and where it is today, this second anniversary of the movement is worth celebrating. Can I get a here for that? Yeah. But not in the grand style. The movement is expanding gradually, and I know and believe that Youth Impact Parliament has becoming a trending news, and this parliament will soon get the utmost attention from all relevant stakeholders. Very soon, official invitations will come from the Republic demanding for a representation from this youth parliament on statutory bodies of state agencies. Yeah. Get invitations to speak on national televisions and radio stations. Every big institution starts small. Our big dream will not die, but will become a reality. The Speaker, at this pace and morale that Youth Impact Parliament is on, the future is bright. Mr. Speaker, this is the composition of the Parliament. The second Parliament was composed of constituencies from the Volta, Oti, Greater Accra, and Eastern region, making 93 constituencies. We are hoping to compose the third Parliament this August with 8 regions, namely Volta, Oti, Eastern, Greater Accra, Central, Upper East, Northern, and Northeast regions, making up to 155 constituencies. The number of seats will increase yearly until all seats of the Ghanaian Republic Parliament are adopted. Mr. Speaker, currently in the second Parliament, we have 50 majority MPs to 40 minority MPs. We also have 1 disabled member, of whom is excited to be part of us. The total youth MP is 93, making 74 males to 19 females. Mr. Speaker, I may now seek your leave to appreciate the patrons of this movement. Present here is Honorable Kofi Attor, former Member of Parliament for Whole Central and Special Advisor to the Speaker of Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. We also have Honorable Peter Nochukote, MP for Akachin Love constituency of the 8th Parliament of Ghana. We have Honorable Attor James Flolu, the DCE for Fajato South. We have Honorable Divine Richard Bosom, MCE for Whole Municipal, and our father, Mr. Simon Abogan, a lecturer at the Department of Marketing in Whole Technical University. Mr. Speaker, God bless us all. Make Youth Impact Parliament great and strong, and bless our whole land down. Thank you very much for your attention. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We actually prepared another statement to be given by the other deputy executive director. May I please, on the majority leader, to read the highlights of that statement for the attention of members and the entire populace.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and the guests. Mr. Speaker, meaning I'll be getting double pay because I'm performing double role. Thank you very much for the opportunity. This is a statement on the Youth Impact Movement. What I read earlier was a statement on the parliamentary proceedings because I was in charge. So I'll be presenting a statement on their foundation as well, which is supposed to be presented by my other colleague, the other deputy director. So the Youth Impact Movement is to ensure the cultivation of new breed of African youth leaders with integrity and incorruptible character for national development and achievement of good governance and African unity. Its objective is to 1, to create an enabling environment for the youth to build their character in integrity and selflessness. 2, to create opportunity for exposure in parliamentary proceedings and processes for democratic youth leadership. 3, to serve as a training ground for youth in the art of public speaking. And then the last one is to create a linkage with parliamentarians for expanding the frontiers of parliamentary knowledge, skills, and attitude among African youths. So the branches are the Youth Impact Parliament as well as the Youth Impact Foundation. So a quick one on the Youth Impact Foundation. The Youth Impact Foundation is to focus on seeking funds to support the visions and missions of the movement and its branches. It is also open for collaboration with other foundations in order to promote humanitarian activities nationwide. Mr. Speaker, donations to charity and less privileged can not only be termed as humanitarian, but also for the training of the future leaders, building capacity, public speaking skills, refining attitude of the youth, educating the youth, expanding our social and political network, positioning them for employment and appointment consideration. Is also humanitarian activities. This is the focus of this foundation, which is to raise funds to support these activities without inflating charges on the beneficiary. Mr. Speaker, the Youth Impact Movement in branches are here to stay. Can I get a hear for that? Yeah. Having delivered this particular statement on the Youth Impact Movement on behalf of the Executive Director and the Deputy Director in charge of the foundation and the activities and the other officers, I can hereby call on you all to support the movement in cash and in kind. We need your support in order to make more impact. The foundation is ready for all collaborations and also as well as the Parliament and its movement as a whole. Youth Impact Movement shall be great. Happy second anniversary to us all. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, my Deputy Executive Director, in charge of Parliamentary Affairs, for informing us of who we are, where we are from, and where we are going to. Honourable members, at this point, may I respectfully invite Lawyer Adugu, Senior State Attorney, to make his presentation on law, parliament, judiciary, and other related matters, which will help us understand our motion and understand the relation for us to better practice and build capacities and other related matters. Well, we will now approve the bill. Yeah.
The Speaker of Parliament, the guest of honor here present, in the person of Honorable Kofi Attor, members of the House, invitees, a very good afternoon to you. A very good afternoon to you. Let me first of all start off by sharing a few life stories and taking you back to memory lane. It is by divine strength or organization that today I find myself here with the guest of honor. Growing up, I stayed in the same community with our guest of honor. I was at the Senate flat when our Honorable MP then was 2 blocks away from me. I was at block 14, he was at block 16. I think he was on the 2nd floor, so I was also on the 2nd floor. Now, why am I sharing this? It's just to tell you that in life, there will come a time where we'll have to take certain positions. Now, somewhere in GSS, the British Council organized a program called the Mock Parliament, where I was a member of that mock parliament. In fact, as part of the mock parliament, we had to form political parties, do campaign, put up posters. And I remember that Kabori School, which I was selected among all the schools in Ghana as the first school, in fact the best school, to be able to present what we had to do as the mock parliament at the British Council in Accra. I remember that the name of my party was Kestramo Democratic Party. And one would wonder why the name was Kestramo. As young as we were looking at the unity of all the religious groups, so we took Christian, traditional, and Muslim. But let me pass the bubble. We can't do that now. We come from a political party based on religious background. But then we didn't. Long story short, my first major election, I lost. The one I lost to is a reverend now, Reverend Roger Tikriku. The one who had second is a fire officer now, who one way or the other worked closely in the court. So let me get back to the business of the day. And I have to share this just so that we know that in life there are certain things that we cannot run away from. So today, as I meet you as Youth Impact Parliament, I have nostalgic feelings because it takes me back to the days when I was strong in debating and listening to the various speeches that have been given. I think that this is a very good opportunity that you have to learn and also to breed young people who would come into our various arms of government. My duty today is to talk about the legislative powers of Parliament, then dovetail it into how the judiciary implements or applies the laws that are passed by Parliament. It is imperative to say that under the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, we have three arms of government, three main arms of government. We have the, in no particular order, we have the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. Now, I'll be taking you straight to provisions of the Constitution. So I will urge you to take those provisions down as we go around. Now, what we must understand is that power resides in the people. So those of you who are here who are representing your various constituencies, you didn't just come by your own self. It is somebody who gave you the power. So it's very important for us to understand. Now, what is the role of Parliament? Parliament's duty is just simple legislation. Parliament's duty is simple legislation. Why do I say that Parliament's duty is simple? If you look at Article 93, Composition of Parliament, Article 93(1) of the 1992 Constitution, said there shall be a Parliament of Ghana which shall consist of not less than 140 elected members. Not less than 140 elected members. I heard in your various presentations that from year to year you'll be adding on so that you get to the full complement. I think in the Parliament of Ghana now we have 275. Is that not the case? Yes. Unless something else comes up. Maybe SAR or something. Maybe. That is also outstanding. Now, Article 93(2) talks about, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the legislative power of Ghana shall be vested in Parliament and shall be exercised in accordance with this Constitution. So the power to make legislation lies in what? The legislature. And they must pass or they must use the Constitution to be able to establish the various laws that we do have. I know you already know about the composition of Parliament. I'll quickly move on to the key things that Parliament must do. Now, it is important for us to know that every single member of Parliament, under the provisions of the Constitution, has to be in a committee of Parliament. Now, the committees of Parliament have various roles that they play. Aside the legislative function, Parliament also performs oversight functions and responsibilities. Oversight functions and responsibilities. So, for example, Parliament plays some oversight function of the executive, and sometimes a little bit of some form of oversight. So let me use it that way in terms of the judiciary, because appointments from the judiciary, Chief Justice or Justice of the Superior Court, of the Supreme Court, let me make it that way, they will have to be vetted by what? Parliament. Now, if there are certain issues which are very dire and they have consequences, sometimes the Speaker of Parliament would inaugurate or would ask a particular committee to go into it to conduct investigations. Now, it is key for us to understand from Article 106 clause 1, is that the power of Parliament to make laws shall be exercised by bills passed by Parliament and assented to by the President. So laws are made by what? The presentation of what? Bills. And when those bills are accepted by Parliament, then the President assents to it, then becomes law. Now, somebody will ask, is it every bill that Parliament passes that the President will assent to? Obviously, there are some nuances in the Constitution and we will get there. Now, under Article 106.2 says no bill other than such a bill as is referred to in paragraph A of Article 108 of this Constitution shall be introduced in Parliament unless. So there are certain conditions for certain bills which must be introduced. The bill must be accompanied by an explanatory memorandum setting out in detail the policy and principles of the bill, the defects of the existing law, the remedies proposed to deal with those defects, and the necessity for its introduction. So every bill that is introduced, there must be an explanatory memorandum. So that memorandum tells us why we are bringing in that bill. Is there already an existing law? How is that existing law working? Why do we want a change of that existing law? Or we do not have an existing law, but we have a situation where we have to legislate on. No, you can't have legislation on every single thing. As time goes on, things are changing, then you do what? Legislation on them. Secondly, the bill, it has to be published in the Gazette at least 14 days before the date of its introduction in Parliament. So before any bill comes up, there must be a publication in the Gazette at least 14 days before it is introduced in Parliament. Now, a bill affecting the institution of chieftaincy shall not be introduced in Parliament without prior reference to the National House of Chiefs. Obviously, we should understand this, because the chieftaincy institution is a very sacred institution, and we want to make sure that we do not do anything to challenge or to change the composition of the chieftaincy institution without reference to the National House of Chiefs. Whenever a bill is read for the first time in Parliament, it shall be referred to the appropriate committee appointed under Article 103 of this Constitution, which shall examine the bill in detail and make such inquiries in relation to it as the committee considers expedient or necessary. So there are certain committees in Parliament. We have the Security Committee, we have Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. All those committees are there. So when the particular bill comes, the Speaker will refer it to the appropriate committee to deliberate on it. And by the committee system, we have people from varied professional backgrounds or varied opinions being part of the committees. And this is to allow the legislative function of Parliament to be properly exercised. Now, while this bill has been deliberated upon by the appropriate committee, they shall report to what? Parliament. So when the committee does its work, what they will do is that they report to Parliament. The report of the committee, together with the explanatory memorandum to the bill, it shall form the basis for a full debate on the bill for its passage, with or without amendments or its rejection by Parliament. So sometimes the committee will meet, deliberate upon the bill, and the committee will come out and say, look, we think that this part of the bill, there should be an amendment. This part of the bill, there should be amendment. One popular bill that has garnered a lot of attention is the bill on proper human sexual rights. Ghanaian sexual rights. In fact, at a point somebody asked, the bill is about Ghana, so why should it be Ghanaian even in it? So that Ghanaian, the name Ghanaian even in the bill is being considered that it should be changed. It's even deleted. So it is the committee which is doing its work. And for most of you who are here, the committee is then what? Had sittings, called people to come and give their opinions on the said bill. Why the bill should, why we should have such a law or why we should not. And we have people from varied backgrounds giving their opinions on it. And they have consultative meetings. So all that is done by the committee and they report back to Parliament together with the explanatory memorandum. It's very important for us to understand the explanatory memorandum. The reason why I'm saying so is that when I jump to the second part of my presentation, how the courts use it, the courts are going to look at what we call the explanatory memorandum, the purpose of the law. So the court will use it for the intent for which the legislature made the law. We get the point. Now, where a bill passed by Parliament is presented to the President for assent, he shall signify within 7 days after he refuses to assent to the bill, unless the bill has been referred by the President to the Council of State under Article 90 of this particular provision. So, when the bill is passed by Parliament, remember we keep on calling it a bill. So it's passed by Parliament. It gets to the President. The President has to assent to it. He has a timeline within which to assent to it. If he does not assent to it, he has to refer to the Council of State, which is also a body that has been mandated. When the President refuses to assent to a bill, he shall within 14 days after the refusal. So if the President refuses to assent to the bill, he is required to do something within a particular timeline. State in a memorandum to the Speaker any specific provision of the bill, which in his opinion should be reconsidered by Parliament, including his recommendation for amendment to it. So the President can say, look, there's this particular provision of this bill that I think that Parliament should reconsider. And he does that by sending a memorandum to us, the Speaker. He shall also inform the Speaker that he has referred the bill to the Council of State for consideration and comment under Article 90. Remember, I said that the President can, within 7 days, refer it to the Council of State for its comments and considerations. So if all of that is done, the President is mandated to inform the Speaker that this is exactly what I have done. Now, Parliament shall reconsider a bill taking into account the comments made by the President or the Council of State as the case may be under Clause 8 of this article. So when Parliament gets that communication, Parliament may reconsider the bill based on the comments that they have received from the President or they have received from the Council of State. When the bill reconsidered under Clause 9 of this article is passed by Parliament by a resolution supported by vote no less than 2/3 of all the members of Parliament, the President shall assent to it within 30 days after passing of the resolution. This is where the power of Parliament lies. So when it has been reconsidered and everything is done and Parliament has passed a resolution of no less than 2/3, then the President has 30 days within which to assent to it. Without prejudice to the power of Parliament to postpone the operation of the law, a bill shall not become law until it has been duly passed and assented in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution, and shall come to force unless it has been published in the Gazette. So remember, when everything is done, there has to be a publication in the Gazette. The Gazette is official government publication. So every law that you are looking at, before the law will come into being when it's assented to the must be publication in the Gazette. Now the provision of Clause 7 to 10 of this article shall not apply for a bill certified by the Speaker as a bill which the provisions of Article 108 of the Constitution apply. And accordingly, the President shall give his assent to any such bill when presented for assent. We'll go into that. When it is determined by the committee that Parliament appointed for the purpose of that bill is of urgent nature, the provisions of the preceding clauses which are referred to other than Clause 1 and Paragraph 8 shall not apply. And accordingly, the President shall give his assent to the bill under the legislation for assent. There are certain bills that are of very urgent nature. And once it doesn't fall into those categories of mentioned, then the President must of necessity append his signature or assent to it. A bill introduced in Parliament by or on behalf of the President shall not be delayed for more than 3 months in any committee of Parliament. So if a bill has been introduced by the President or on behalf of the President, it shall not be delayed at the committee level. Now, Article 107, you need to take that into consideration. Parliament shall have no power to pass any law. The relationship between Parliament and the courts or the judiciary. Parliament shall have no power to pass any law which alters the decision or judgment of any court as between the parties subject to that decision. So when the judiciary has given their decision, Parliament does not have the right to pass any law to alter that decision as given by the judiciary. Parliament shall have the power to pass any law which operates respectively to impose any limitation on and to adversely affect the personal rights and liberties of any person, or to impose a burden or obligation or liability on any person, except as in the case of the law enacted under Articles 178 and 182 of the Constitution. So remember, Parliament does not have power to pass respective legislation, except provisions under Article 178 and 182. Article 108, Parliament shall not, unless the bill is introduced or the motion is introduced by and on behalf of the President, proceed upon a bill, including an amendment to the bill, that in the opinion of the person presiding makes provision for any of the following: the imposition of a taxation or alteration of a taxation other than a reduction. So if you are imposing a tax, right, or you are altering a tax other than a reduction, as a reduction, yes, but anything that is beyond, no, that will not happen. The imposition of a charge on the consolidated fund or other public funds of Ghana, or the alteration of any charge other than by a reduction. If it's a reduction, fine, Parliament can go ahead. But if there's any charge that is supposed to increase the charge of the consolidated fund, that is the expenditure of the consolidated fund. Consolidated fund, the name suggests is consolidated. That's where we have all come together to put our money. That's where our central money is coming from. So we didn't want any law to be passed which imposes a more expense on the consolidated fund. But anything that reduces the amount that is on the consolidated fund, yes, Parliament will do that. Because at the end of the day, remember that before any government is able to make an expenditure, they bring their budget to what? Parliament. For what? Approval. And even when they are budgeted, when they are approvals, there are certain limitations. It's not everything that you can do. You get the point? So you may approve your budget, but there are certain limitations as to what anyone can do. Now, it is important for us to understand that when Parliament passes laws, those laws are implemented. Now, even before I get to talk about how these laws are implemented, I have been wondering why our members of Parliament do not have libraries in their various constituencies with the laws that have been passed. Because at the end of the day, the function of the member of Parliament is to make what? Laws. And the member of Parliament is coming from a particular constituency. And I'm just probably also thinking, now that I have the advisor to the right honorable speaker of the Parliament of Ghana is here, I'm wondering why members of Parliament do not have offices, official offices in their various constituencies. Not offices they themselves have created, but offices which constitutionally have been mandated that is an office of the MP in the constituency. Because the MP comes from the constituency and goes to Parliament to one, legislate on our behalf. That is one. The other thing I also think about is, I am yet to find out how many times our MPs have engaged us on various bills which have come up and seek our opinion on how they should represent us. For example, this bill on sexual rights and others. How many MPs have engaged their constituents to ask them, what is your opinion on this? And by engaging their constituents, I'm not only referring to the party, the political party from which they came from. They may be doing their own caucus conversations with the political party that they come from. They may have some expertise, they may have some guidance on it. But the question I ask myself is that the ordinary person who is on the streets, the ordinary person to be able to understand that this is what is going on. How is Parliament performing its legislative functions? By making sure that they engage the people that they represent. Remember, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So when the law is passed today, tomorrow when you go against it, it's passed, it's accepted, President signed it. Tomorrow when you go against it, you can't come and say you didn't know about it. So how do you know about a law when you have not been communicated to, or you do not have any knowledge of it? Well, this is one of the things that is exciting my mind. Maybe at one of your discussions, you may table this up and have a debate on it, and probably write a paper to Parliament and ask that certain recommendations to be done. I am therefore not surprised at all that majority of people do not know the functions of members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, allow me to go into this particular area because your group is building you up to be able to be bold, to be able to speak on issues. But if members of the general public do not know the key work of members of parliament, what is going to happen is that members of parliament themselves will be doing things that is not their core mandate. Of course, development is the core function of the executive. Lawmaking powers is the core function of what? The legislature. But let me just laugh a little bit. Because we have a constitution which has what? A hybrid. Why some members of the legislature are ministers in the executive. So obviously, the one who makes the laws, and the law says that a particular percentage of ministers should be selected from what? Parliament. Maybe that may be the difficulty. Where people are performing double roles. How effective can those people be when you're a minister and you are still a parliamentarian? Looking at the odious tasks that one has to perform. I am taking us through this tangent for us to understand that the role of parliamentarians is what? Difficult. Difficult in the sense that, one, people expect a lot more from you beyond what you are by law mandated to do. You attend funerals here and there, aside making laws, you attend social gatherings here and there, and woe betide you if you do not attend the social gatherings. You may be told that, look, you are not approachable. Your calls are coming here and there, people are looking for employment and they are going through you. Law-making function, the executive, which is supposed to do that, development, which is the key function of the executive, is saddled on parliamentarians. And let me make this point, that I think that a lot of parliamentarians themselves have brought this upon themselves. I see the contest now, the primaries going on, and I see those who are contesting the primaries, the kind of promises that they are making. Then I ask myself, go to the constitution, is this your prime duty? When people are promising others that we are going to give jobs to party executives and others, the question I ask myself is that, how are you going to do this? Yes, you may say, pay your influence. But the question I ask myself is that, when you make the people believe that that is your function, then the people begin to put that pressure on you. We get the point. I hope we get the point. So the core function is making of laws. So instead of our MPs concentrating on the making of laws, they have been saddled with so many duties that aside making of laws, they are looking at other development projects and others. Somebody will say MPs Common Fund. The MPs Common Fund, I presume, came about because a lot of people were expecting development from the MPs. Now the interesting thing about the MPs Common Fund is that the money will come through what would be under the supervision some way somehow of the municipal chief executive or the DC. So is that fund very common? It's an MP's common fund, but is that fund very common? How many people can have access to the fund? And is that fund helping the MPs to better do their laws, conduct better research, conduct better consultations, to make sure that their law-making functions is higher? Somebody makes a comment. Ghana, we have a lot of laws. Our problem is what? Implementation. So I'll come to the courts. Remember, when the laws are passed, the executive will have to put measures in place to make sure that the laws become functional. Some laws, when they are passed, we call them the parents' law. The law may require a minister to do what we call an LI, legislative instrument. The legislative instrument is supposed to be like something that will make the law easier to work. So you may have the parents' law, but the legislative instrument puts the pieces together to make the law effective and to move forward. So we have ministers also making laws. We call them subsidiary legislation. That one, the power has been given to them. But obviously, they can't make any subsidiary legislation which goes against the Parents Act. So the subsidiary legislation made by members of parliament, the ministers of state, is supposed to support the Parents Act. Now, how do we, lawyers, when these laws have been made, how do we handle it? How do the judiciary handle it? Now, one interesting thing is that I am yet to see a system where, when laws are passed, all judges are supplied with the laws. We do not have that system now. So, it's likely that you may go to a court as a lawyer, there's a case, And the judge may be making reference to an old law. Meanwhile, there has been an amendment to the law. So I'm talking about how we implement it in court. You may be making reference to a law which is repealed. That means that law has been changed. It's no more working. Another law is totally in place. Currently, the Lands Act has repealed certain old laws. State Lands Act, Conveyancing Decree and Acts. So the question I ask myself is that, as a lawyer, what am I supposed to do? There's a reason why they call us learned people. Because we are always learning. Recently, attempted suicide, which was a crime, Parliament has amended the Criminal Offences Act. So attempted suicide is no more what? A crime. Do we get the point? So what used to be a crime then has now changed. It's now being considered as a mental health issue. But assuming during the process of bringing this bill, there were discussions by members of Parliament holding public fora in their various constituencies to tell us that this is what is going on. By the time the bill is passed, we would have known that attempted suicide is no more a criminal offense. Now, how do lawyers apply the law that is passed by Parliament? We have what we call the criminal law, and we have what the civil law. Now, anything that we call criminal law is anything that imposes a punishment that we will either send you to prison or we will fine you. And remember, it can only be called criminal law unless it has been defined. So nobody can punish you for any offense unless the law defines that it's actually a crime. The law must state that it is a crime. So depending on the situation that you find yourself, if you are arrested for drink driving, they will look at which law deals with drink driving. What does drink driving mean? Is it an offense under the law? So the first thing you ask yourself is that what was the person doing? The person was driving. What are the laws governing driving? We'll go to what? The Road Traffic Act. Now when we get to the Road Traffic Act, we also have regulations supporting the Road Traffic Act. So we have the Road Regulations 2012, LI 2180. That also gives certain rules and regulations. So you may be charged under the Road Traffic Act, or you may be charged under the LI 2180. That is the legislative instrument that supports the Road Traffic Act. So how would lawyers determine? We first of all must look at the charge that has been fixed on the person. Maybe that charge may be a difficult charge that somebody doesn't have knowledge of. The ordinary person who is on the street may not know what the particular charge is, but the constitutional requirement is that when anybody is arrested, restricted, or detained, the person must be informed in the language he or she understands the reason for his or her arrest. Language he or she understands. Now I ask myself, if the law is so technical that the one interpreting to you cannot interpret it to your understanding, then we have a problem. And the general knowledge of our people, of our laws, is very low. You have a lot of educated people, you have a lot of high-level people, they don't know the laws. Basic rights, people don't know their rights. Basic. What are your rights when you're being arrested? What are your rights when you're being detained? Bail, going to court, what you can do, right to fair trial. A lot of people do not know about it. So as lawyers, whenever any case comes to us, the first thing we look at is it civil or is it criminal? Civil cases are cases in between the individuals or maybe between an individual and an institution. So for example, somebody has a land dispute with you. There's issue of trespass. That is a civil case. Now, when it's a civil case, what do we look at? We are looking at what? Land. So it's an issue of what? Land. So we are going to now go to land law. Now, aside we looking at land law as lawyers, we are now going to look at other issues like registration, administrative law. Has the person registered the title to the land? Has the person gone through all the procedures and every other thing? So you see, one simple thing opens you up to a lot. You will now be dealing with land law. Then aside land law, you'll be going back to the laws of Ghana in Article 11, where we are talking about common law, equity, laws passed by Parliament, customary law. So that land you are dealing with, there may be some custom with it, customary law with it. The customs of the people of that particular area, that is also law. You need to understand the law. How was the land gifted to the person? How did the person acquire the land? What is the custom of that particular locality? So you see, one simple case opens you up to a lot. The reason why you don't walk up to a lawyer and say, lawyer, I want legal advice, and you start talking and you think that the lawyer will give you legal advice. No. We have to study the documents, we have to study everything about it to be able to give you an informed decision. Now somebody says that, oh, if that is the reason, why then do we worry ahead? I mean, it should be easy for judges to be able to give decisions. No, it will not be easy for judges to give decisions. Because with the law, there are varied reasoning depending on where you are looking at it from. So a judge's duty is to be able to look at the law, is be able to look at the case that is presented to decide where the law favors the person, or where the person gets benefit under the law, or where the law says that per the dispute, this is how it's supposed to be resolved. So what judges do is to be able to what? Resolve. Now it will interest you to know that there are particular things that a lawyer may not take a look at, but a judge will take a look at. Because of the judge's experience dealing with cases from that particular area. Remember I said we have what we call judge laws, common law, that's how it started. Judges were sitting on cases from cases and develop principles over time. So one key thing we need to understand that every law that is passed by Parliament is supposed to be what? Acted upon by what? The judiciary. And by the judiciary we are talking about what? The bench. And obviously the actors in the judicial setting. So justice emanates from the people. Judges who we select are using the power that we have given them. The judges do not act arbitrarily. Now it is important for me to stratify the court system. The Supreme Court, which is the highest court of the land, deals with interpretation and enforcement of provisions of the Constitution. So when there's any matter which has to go for interpretation, Quorum of Parliament, the Justice Abdullahi case, when we're at a loss as to what a quorum should be, somebody took it to court, to the Supreme Court, for some interpretation. And the Supreme Court gave a decision. And we are all bound by it. And the Supreme Court is not bound to follow any decision of any other court. The Supreme Court can even revise its own decision. So if there's any issue about production of any document, and there's an issue of the production of that document be of a national security concern, that matter must go to the Supreme Court for what? Determination. Are we okay? And there are certain special cases which obviously are determined at the Supreme Court. Election of president. So when there's any dispute about the election of a president, it goes to where? The Supreme Court. The Supreme Court decides it. If there's a dispute about the election of a member of parliament, it goes to where? The High Court. Are we okay? Are we okay? Good. So all these provisions are there for judges to use. Now what happens if it is brought to the attention of the Supreme Court that a particular provision of a particular law passed by Parliament is inconsistent to the Constitution? The Supreme Court is the only court that is given the power to strike down a provision of a law or an act of Parliament or any provision which is not in consonance with the Constitution. If there is a lacuna, if there is a vacuum, if there is a space, then the Supreme Court can fill in the vacancy. For example, there are constitutional provisions which say that when you are trying an accused person, you must give him fair trial, give him adequate facilities for that person to mount his defense. In what we call summary trial, that is trials without a jury, we didn't used to give all documents to the accused person. It's like when you're in the box, they will present the document. Yeah, they will tender it in. Yeah, will tender it. The Supreme Court looked at it and said, no. Facilities to be given to the person includes that you must file everything, what we call disclosures. So disclose everything to the person, and the person can decide whether he or she would want to still contest the matter. So the Supreme Court came out with practice direction. So when usually we have lacuna in the law, or we have a gap in the law, what the Supreme Court will do is that they will give a practice direction. If there's also a challenge about any particular provision, they can strike down the provision. There used to be a provision in the law Section 104, subsection 4 of the Criminal Procedure Act, that when somebody stands surety as bail, I mean, if you are granted bail, the one who stands surety for you, if they can't find you the one who was being accused, or you the one who was going through trial, the one who was standing surety for you, they can imprison that person in your place. The contract of signing for bail is a civil contract. That does not give rise to imprisoning somebody or imposing a prison sentence of somebody. You only imprison somebody when the person has committed what? A criminal offense. And not being able to produce an accused person is not a criminal offense. So in doing all of this, sometimes even the court in giving their decisions can make recommendations that Parliament should make laws governing those areas. For example, the disclosures I talked about. The Supreme Court was of the opinion that Parliament should make laws to govern that area. But until then, the Supreme Court will put certain things in place to make it easier for people to navigate. They will just not fold their hands and say that's it. So that's why we say at certain points in time we have what we call the judge-made laws. And every decision that is given, remember as we said, Parliament must make sure that they follow the rules in coming out with the laws. Because whenever they make any law that is contrary to the Constitution, the judiciary is there to strike down those provisions, or the judiciary is there to make changes to those particular provisions. I want to bring my discussion to a close by just giving you the relationship between the legislature and the judiciary. Now, attending to, returning from any proceedings of Parliament, a member of Parliament cannot be served with what? A summons. Well, when would a member of Parliament be said to be attending to, returning from proceedings of Parliament? If you want to serve a member of Parliament in any process, who do you have to go through? These are questions that are lingering on people's minds. Are members of Parliament beyond reproach? Definitely not. We have seen cases where drivers and members of Parliament who were going against the traffic rules were arrested. And we saw videos where members of Parliament, some got very angry and every other thing. But the key thing about it is that if you make laws for us, you must follow the laws. That's the simple rule. Because you are in a better position to appreciate why you make the laws. The judiciary's role is to be able to interpret the laws that have been given, apply the laws to the latter. The executive's role is to make sure that when laws are passed, we make sure that we implement it and implement it well. I must state that these three arms of government have a very collective role to ensure total development of our country. But it's important to state that if we make laws and we do not implement the laws, then there's no need for us to even waste our time making the laws. Because we make laws for particular purposes. But if we make the laws and we are not able to comply with the laws, then we have a problem. Second, the judiciary must be emboldened in its efforts to interpret and apply the law. Where we have a very timid judiciary, we cannot have a nation that is moving forward. Because the judiciary is our last hope. Whenever there's any dispute, it is the judiciary which must step in to decide how the dispute is supposed to be resolved. Third, the executive have a role and they have a mandate. Their mandate is for purpose of what? Development. Their mandate is to make sure that whatever agenda that they have set, whatever promises they made, they comply with it. But is the executive alone? The ordinary Ghanaian, those who have put the executive in place, do we vote them into power and go and sleep? Definitely not. We must hold our leaders very accountable. And in holding our leaders accountable, it behoves us to make sure that we follow the rules and regulations that have been set for us. Corruption is a canker. But until we identify how we are contributing to corruption, we cannot erode it. Thank you.
I want to seize this opportunity to congratulate lawyer Adugu for being the first legal practitioner who approached the House. I'm sure you have heard a lot of legal things. Let me tell you, if you want to be an MP and you don't understand the law, how can you make the law? So his lecture is very important. This is the starting point and he is opening the gate for us. Honourable members, We have wanted to take questions and answers, but we would like to hear from our guest of honor, and he also give us an enlightenment and a lot of things to complement the first presentation. And from there we'll have questions and answers. So on that note, at this juncture, I respectfully invite Honorable Kofi Attor, the Special Advisor to the Speaker of Ghana's Republican Parliament, to present to us our investor address and complement the presentation of the Honorable.
I would like to confess that this is a full lecture. You don't need two of this today. You don't need to know. I'm hoping that the organizers of this, I hear it's being recorded, but I've also seen that the council have some notes. If council can also make his notes available apart from the recordings, because the recordings always are longer than the notes. Most of the time, what we have is what we call speaking points. So you get a speaking point from the notes. But when you are speaking and you get to a point, then you elaborate, and that is why the recording will be much more lengthier. So I don't intend delivering a lecture. He asked a number of questions. I was in Parliament for 12 good years, so I can answer a few of the questions. Then I will. What I wanted to do today, you see that I brought a copy of the Constitution. I wanted us to go in a direction about the debate that is current about 30 years of the implementation of this Constitution and what amendments do we have to make. Some people are even telling us throw off the Constitution entirely, but a lot of people are saying let's look like for a few of the things that can be amended. The American Constitution was in 1789. It's still there. Constitution is a living document. At any particular time, let me also tell you that I was in the Consultative Assembly that drew the Constitution in 1992. Where 80% of you were not born. I can see. So, and then we never thought that was the wisdom for forever. That is why there are, in the Constitution, there are areas in which you can amend. There are procedures for amendment. There are some areas that were left a little blank, and it was said that Parliament should make laws to fulfill this. Some areas can be changed just by MPs, and by some entrenched clauses, you have to come for a referendum and get about 40% of Ghanaians and 80% of that 40% agreeing before you can change a number of issues. Those are the issues I'll be taking you through at the appropriate time. There was a question that do MPs have libraries in their constituencies? I don't think MPs have libraries in their constituencies because, as Council said, we don't really have offices. The offices that we have in the constituencies are virtually party offices. They are not constituency offices. So the one I hired in 1990 something is still being used by World Center right now when they are going to the market. It's something I hired long ago. What Mr. Speaker Bagbin intends doing, and we've got some money for it, and I'm hoping that although it cannot be completed, the idea is that there should be offices in each constituency, and there should be constituency offices. So everybody who is in that constituency can walk in there and meet 2 or 3 people who should be paid by the state. Is that right? Like we have district offices in all the districts, so there should be parliamentary offices in every constituency, and people should be employed by the state to work there. So You are not afraid. I don't see NPP people coming into my constituency because it's a party office, and you are likely to be meeting only with your party people and listening to them. And that is not what the Constitution says. The day after the election, you don't only represent those who vote for you, but you represent everybody else in the constituency, even those who have not voted for you. So I think that is a good observation. It has to be done. It has not been done all this one. In fact, though Ajabu, when he was Honorable Do Ajabu, when he was a speaker, he brought this matter up. So they tried to do a prototype. So when you go to Akachi now, of course he located it in his own place. When you go to Akachi, you see the prototype. But what Speaker Bagbin is thinking of is completely different. It should be a proper office. It's not for one person. If you are not there and another MP comes, it's for him. When we were in Parliament, there were no offices also for MPs. Again, I think those times that. So when we were in Parliament, the days that I was in Kabori and I was in Parliament, our car booths were our offices. If you have a house and you have an office, that is what. But right now, we have made a whole step forward. If you should be coming to Parliament House, this group should be coming to Parliament House to observe sittings. Parliament is on break. When they come back in May or June, let's arrange so that we can and observe sittings at least one time, and little excursion around to see the offices. Every member of Parliament now has an office, and that's a big step forward. Like Council said, a lot of people do not know much about what happens about MPs. Then we have all sorts of ideas about members of Parliament, and we don't do too. So every MP now also has a research officer. We didn't have it, so that's also a way forward. So you cannot know everything, but you want to make a statement. You want to make a contribution to something. In US, every senator has at least 12 research officers, and every House of Reps president has at least 6. So all of you would have gotten jobs if the MPs were to employ all of you. Because so when you see a senator speaking, when you listen to them, and they are going around the world, and it is not as if all that is wisdom that or knowledge that he has buys out of research. Right now, Ghana is only 30 years. 30 years is only actually. Although that 30 years is older than all of you years. It's only because we are talking about 1789 when the American Constitution was formed. We are talking about 300 years and where they have reached. We hope to get there. So, library. I, for example, personally, have a library in my house. The library is even too full now. All the laws, particularly when I was in law school, I had to buy all the laws of Ghana. I'm sure Council has it in his house and his office. But every MP will not have the opportunity. But when you enter their offices now, quite a number of them are doing well. Quite a number of them will have those things. So some are making libraries out of their own offices. Not in the constituency, I confess. I've not seen, I don't know how we can have a library in the 3-room constituency office that we have. The space could be a problem. And the people we put in those offices in the constituencies, we MPs pay. And nobody refers that money to you. You have to be sure that you get your salary to pay. When I was there, I had 2 people in the office. I don't know how many people are there. I know I was paying regularly. So we'll get there. Engagement with our constituents. It's quite expensive, but it is done. Even I met some road chiefs who were reminding me how I used to meet them every quarter. We were doing meetings in YMCA. We go to the villages. We do it. It's quite expensive now. You know, when you gather the township, we need to buy some derived enough, you know. But it is not as much as to be done. What we do in Parliament is that because all MPs cannot go round, parliamentary committees actually go round. They take a number of engagements, they take a number of law, people's needs, and they try to involve the public as much as possible. The two laws that I have seen that have had the highest number of amendments are the LGBTQ++++. Recently, but long ago, what we used to call as serious fraud office. The bill, serious fraud office bill, is now called YOCO. Serious fraud office is now called Organized Crime Association Bureau. But serious fraud office, I remember there were not less than 105 proposals for amendment. And as for this LGBTQ++, it's almost 200. You know, in that sense, then the committee gets overwhelmed, they go around. But we still can do, MPs can still do better by going to communities. What we used to do, when you come on break, you have to go around. Now, Parliament is on break. You have to go around, go to the communities. My communities are sorted out. You go to Takla, you go to Odu. You don't bring any two villages together. So you get up early in the morning, by 6 o'clock, we are meeting one group. By 8, another one. By 9, they are going to farm. You come back 3 o'clock. You go. We used to do that, and I suspect MPs do it. You go and tell them the type of laws that you have made throughout that session, and then their proposals. But it's difficult as the law making process to come and go around. In fact, whole Central now has over 200 branches. Yeah. When I was in Parliament, it was 120. But Ho alone has developed beyond any imagination. Completely. In fact, Barracks New Town, the place called Barracks, didn't exist when I was there. There was nothing like that. Because beyond the barracks, there was no settlement to the right. The last time I went for a funeral, and I went for a funeral, and I went for a funeral, and I was on that road. And now it's a huge community called Barracks New Town, which is divided into 2 or 3. Normally, where I live, at the medical village, I walk around the house, and sometimes the roadside near the hospital. But the last time I decided to go the other way, go behind. You can imagine the developments as if you are going getting to Adugu. So Ho now has branches that you use to exist. Difficult. You cannot bring those Adugu group, which is still in Ho, and join it with medical village where I live. So that is also a problem. Another question. Yeah, let me tell you about development not being the core mandate of it. It is true. In fact, but it was not that true until 1992 Constitution. I hear that, and I'll come and tell you stories about those things. Those years, 51, the 60s, sometimes when we were not even born, the center of development was the member of parliament. In fact, they all flew flags. When your member is coming, parliament is coming to town, he flew a flag in front of his car. And everybody has to line up to come and tell them the road is so good. But it's unlike now. Those days when they line up to tell you the road is so good, they are also brought some cassava and plantain and a lot of chicken. When you come home, you don't buy food. But now people want you even to put rice in your bag before you visit them, which they will take from you. So, but in the revolutionary period, we created district assembly. Until this time, districts were not assemblies. No. There were what we call district councils and a district. They are what we call coordinating director now. Yeah, there will be 1 or 2 people who ran a district called district council. But 1987, when the blue book came and we formed district assemblies, it was clear then that development in the district, schools, blocks, the little grassroots development. That is why we were insisting that these assemblies should not be partisan. Because development, if you don't have a school, does it have to do very fast? Or you don't have water, or you don't have electricity. We thought that those ones are people that local people elected will bring to the assembly, and the assembly will get some money. And when we were doing the constitution, we realized also that one problem of the assemblies was decentralization. Monies that were up here were not going down. That is why we created the district assemblies common fund. At least 5% of the total revenue of Ghana should be shared equally among the districts. Not really equally, in fact, because there are formula, size, population, need, and all that. So that every district starts with something. Every district starts with some money. And then you can identify that every person needs to improve. Then you can do it. You don't need, you just have to bring that matter to the budget committee in assembly. They go and look at it and they do it. So until 1992, and so when we got to parliament, although the constitution was saying something else, the minds of our people were still believing that MPs had to do the rules. MPs had to. It was difficult. It was really very difficult. They didn't know that DCEs and co that were appointed assemblymen were to do the basic things. Every MP was inundated. That is how come. And meanwhile, in 92 to 96, we were in parliament alone as NDC. I told you the last time I came that MPP boycotted the assembly, the parliament 92 to 96. So they were not there. And we couldn't touch the common fund just as one party. We started dividing ourselves into what we call the NCP and managed to make laws. But 97, when NPP came into parliament, and we now had a full house, we decided that this thing will not go out away soon. Let's make some of the common fund available to the MP. Not available to him in his pocket. It will still be in assembly. But when I get to Takla and they ask for 10 bags of cement, I should be able to say, I can provide that one. Just go from the common fund that is for the MP. Go through the process, the DCD, the district finance officer, they will release the money for you to buy whatever. It was very useful. It's still very useful. It's very little, but it made a lot of difference. It is for us, people like us, to continue telling our people that MPs are not for development. And I can assure you, I also set a record. I was the very first president, once I was here as NIFA, to use common fund to pay school fees. And it became, because you see, the police students, my place was a meeting ground. Me is police student that did all my campaign for me. Because every time I was with them, I was at the slave flat. And we realized that those days, 500 cities, 50 cities, 50. Because the common mindset was about 13,000, so very little money. But 50 cities can pay somebody's, this host and the old one, we're coming here to pay. So I used part of the fees to pay. The auditors came and they found problem with me. And the matter, you see the appearing before the auditor general, I think water regime is really beginning from Monday. So I was cited for diverting the common fund instead of going to buy cement and roofing sheet. I paid school fees. And I came strongly to my own defense. I said there's no development higher than human development. If people cannot get little monies, and because of that they are home, and we are talking about building school blocks, when they finish with those school blocks, where do they go? Do you know the person who supported me? J.H. Mensah, you might have heard of him before. He was the MPP leader, minority leader. He said Kofi is right. They're my friends from the north. From that time he was each MP now is able. It's a record that somebody should write the books, because it's all in the hands of. Somebody should write the books and call MPs common fund, Kofi Attor common fund. Anyway, so let me answer your last question. I will come again. I was going to do something here. The debate is on now, about constitutional amendment, and I have been attending. In fact, Professor Mills did a big job by putting up a future committee. 30 years. I've seen your yeah, your motion is about 30 years of practicing of all this. Yes, 30 years of the constitution. This is a constitution that has lasted longest in Ghana. There was one constitution in 1951. It was changed in 1954 to what the 51 was called Alan Ben's. No, the Ben's constitution was in 46. Then there was one in 51. Then there was the Nkrumah constitution in 54. And you see the number of years, 3-4 years is up. Then there was the Independence Constitution in 57. That took us into independence. In 3 years, we jettisoned it and came to the 1960 Republican Constitution. That one was overthrown in 6 years, 1960. And then a new constitution was written in 69. It was overthrown after 27 months. By 1972, it's over. Then there was another one that was made in 79. That's the second, the 10th Republican Constitution. It also overthrown by Rawlings in 27 months. After 27 months. So when we passed 27 months with powers, we thought that it was the ultimate. Before the 92, it has lasted for 30 years. Why is it so? I'll tell you the composition of those who do the constitution and some of the clauses, some of them that you have already referred to. For instance, ministers, MPs being ministers. The fact that there's no ceiling on the number of ministers a president can appoint. So a president can appoint 120 ministers. When there's an idea that there could be cabinet between 10 and 19, so that an idea has been given that even if you create more ministers, you don't go that far. So, because there's no ceiling, so people think that ceiling should be put, for instance, Supreme Court. What the law says, what the Constitution says is that there should be a Chief Justice and not less than 9, not less than 9. There's no ceiling. But Chief Justice plus 9 is 10. He didn't say plus 9, but he said no less. Do you know that we got to 18 recently? It's as if you get up and then you appoint don't call it. And so should there be a limit? Because the tribal committee, which Professor Mills set up, thinks that 15 can form 3 panels. Because normally the Supreme Court will be sitting in a panel of 5. So 15, so that. But is that real in Ghana? Where all cases end up there. All cases, unlike America where they deal only with political matters. This one, whether it's chief justice or land or constitutional, everything goes up there. Do they are 3 panels enough? Or if we make it 10, would you put too much pressure? We will come to all that. So I'm just trying to answer some of the queries that we put to MPs. What I would like to propose to you is that try and get a copy of what Council has put up. It was very comprehensive. I was wondering whether you were following to a point from how laws are made. And it went very comprehensively. So take note of the articles that he has mentioned. And each of you, instead you are doing parliament, each of you must buy a copy of the Constitution. This is the small, there's a bigger version, the original version is big, but and it's not very expensive. I think that you can buy and look at it. 2 chapters that you must look at clearly is chapter 5. When you get the Constitution, look at chapter 5. You refer to the rights of citizens. It's a very detailed. Unlike the rights in 69 and 79 Constitution, this one goes on to talk about rights of women, rights of children, rights of the disabled, your rights when you are arrested, and all that. Look at that chapter 5. It's important. Then the other chapter you must be reading is chapter 6, the directive principles of state policy. That's like the manifesto for the country. What the state must be doing is in there. In fact, if we can all congregate around what is in the Constitution, I mean, as to what Ghana should be doing, if we will not have time, I was going to leave you to somebody to read some of it to you. But when I come back again, I will look at those. But I would like to conclude. As he said, I attended Norway School. And when we were in Norway School and I was at there, I'm sure when I've heard the name before, he was then the headmaster. He allowed us time. But in Norway School here, we formed parties, did campaign, and voted. Some of those things you will remember later on, all of you. I see some of you becoming MPs or state leaders. You have to receive it. You have to receive it. Then one day you will also be talking to people and tell them that you have formed this youth parliament before and you were part of it. And that prepares your mind to become a proper MP. Time to come. My last comment is that you said you were 94. 93. So where are the people? When I came, I counted 20 something. I don't know whatever. This is the second time we did here. And attendance has not. So look at it. Is it the time? Is it? Because you see, the first thing I was going to say is that, look, this thing is good. Allow more people to go in. But when I listen to you, then I realized that there are a lot more people who should be sitting here at a particular time. But you cannot be 93 and 25 of you. You have not formed the quorum. I could have declared this meeting not important. So next time you are coming to meet and you are inviting big people like the state attorney, try and get as many of your people to attend. Everybody takes something out of every meeting. Somebody benefits. After we have left there, maybe 60% of you will forget all that we have said. But there will be some 40% who will remember some of the things we have said. And 20% will follow up. And that is how we gain membership. So please, next time, let attendance be close to at least 50% of the people who have signed in. If they are not in town, I know this is a very mobile generation. Those of you here now, some of you will get jobs in Accra and Rivers. Some, the next time I call them, they are in Tamale. But then make efforts to recruit and replace. Thank you very much.
Members, Honorable Kofi Attor for complementing the presentation of Adugu and giving us some advice. Standing close to him is the request of the Simon yes. It's important to recognize him. And also to note, we don't have our way to Honorable as you can see, it is not only youth MPs that are here. There are other influential people and children makers who are here. So, on this note, we want to open the floor for questions to our guest speaker and guest of honor on discussions they are opening up on floor. So, if you have questions, we want to take all the questions and then we will answer the questions and then give their closing remarks. And then we can suspend the sitting, take pictures, and then close up with the first part. So, honourable members, I'm sure you took a lot of notes and you have a lot of questions. The floor is now open for questions. So, yes, honourable listeners, can we get in the microphone? There's another mic among the MPs. Yes. So, honourable Wilson, please ask your question. And please ask all your questions at once. We'll take notes and then we'll answer the questions. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Mr. Marcelo. You thank for all what was Speaker, I want to ask this question about push. So my first question is, must you become a lawyer before you become an MP in Parliament? Looking at the way things are in Ghana Parliament. And the second question is, In the school of thought that becoming an MP in the constituency is a fast pocket personality. That means money at this center stage. For 30 years of unparalleled democracy. One is your take on that as well. Then the third one is education qualification. For the past 30 years, which education does one need to enter the parliament? Looking at the happenings in parliament now, then the way they forget things within the house. Then the fourth one is responsibility for MP, playing the dual role. There's another school of thought that if you double as an MP, as a state minister, you save cost. But other people also saying that you have to relieve one side of responsibility for an MP to give to another person as well. And the fifth one is some of the committees in Parliament, or the Finance Committee, Local Government Committee, and Quality Assurance. The Finance Committee is being chaired by the ruling party. I don't know how that brings transparency because the Finance Minister of the meeting is chairman who is a member of the ruling government. Then the local government as well, the visualization of funds. If it's being given to the government, like now, I was told that it has not been decentralized yet. We don't know what is happening. Then the last one is the quality assurance, which has to be a check on if a minister comes to the house to come and make promise, how often do they ask how far will that promise? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy. Yes, any other person, Honorable Harris, okay? Please give her the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I respond to Harriet Senna Abude, Youth MP for West Central and Chairperson for Special Budget Committee. Result that a motion moved once for the creation of South constituency, and now that the primaries are going on, what's the plan for South constituency, the creation? What's going to happen? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, any other questions? Yes, Honorable Jones.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker and Agbeli. My name is Hon Jones Amegashie-Viglo, an MP for Amanor constituency, and a majority chief whip of this Agbeli. All right, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask, sometime in Parliament, during the time when the e-levy was about to be passed, it was not passed through all the vote that is supposed to pass, but it was taken under certificate of urgency. So what happened, or when, that bill is supposed to be taken under certificate of urgency? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, any other questions? Okay, I think they want to hear answers for further questions.
All right, thank you very much. So, I will leave the issue of SAL and the e-levy certificate of urgency to our Honorable Speaker. I will attempt the other ones. Question: must you become a lawyer before you become an MP? See, in my biased nature, I would have said become a lawyer first. In my biased nature. But let's go back to the law. Article 94. So the qualifications to become a member of Parliament is provided by statute, or is provided by the Constitution. One, you must be a citizen of Ghana. You must be ordinarily resident in the constituency where you want to contest the elections, or for a total period of no less than 5 years out of 10 years, immediately preceding the election which you are standing for, or you must hail from that constituency. So being a citizen, one. Two, you reside in that constituency and you must have resided there at least within 10 years, and at least 5 years immediately preceding that election should have been there, or you hail from that constituency. Now, this is another interesting aspect. That you should have paid all your taxes or made satisfactory arrangements to pay appropriate taxes to the authority. Now, you shall not be qualified if you owe allegiance to a country other than Ghana. Question of owing allegiance to Ghana is a subject matter which the court is determining on. I wouldn't talk about that. Now, if you have been adjudged bankrupt if you are of unsound mind, or you're a criminal lunatic, or you have been convicted for these offenses, high crime under the Constitution, or high treason for an offense involving the security of the state, fraud, dishonesty, moral turpitude, or for any other offense that's punishable by death or a sentence not less than 10 years. So please note the qualifications so that you don't get saddled with any of these things if you really want to become a lawyer. So aside thinking about academic qualifications, think also about yourself. Morally, how upright are you? For an offense related to or connected with election under a law enforced in Ghana. So don't get embroiled or don't get involved in any election-related offense. No, not at all. If you have been found by a committee of inquiry to be incompetent to hold public office, if you are under a sentence of death or any other sentence that is imposed on you by a court, if you are not qualified to be registered as a voter in reference to any law in Ghana, you remember the Attor matter. The Attor matter where there was an issue as to whether she qualifies to be elected during the primaries, because at that point it was alleged that she was not part of the primaries. If you are a chief, you cannot become a member of parliament. I don't know whether we should change this particular provision. We are saying that chiefs cannot be involved in active partisan politics. Now, the key thing you need to know are these criteria that I mentioned. I think there's also a provision on age 21 years. Yes, there's a provision on age 21 years. Now, it's not only lawyers who are in parliament. In fact, you need people of diverse opinions. One leader in parliament is a finance person who is leading. So majority of people, they come to learn. We get the point. So, and I don't want to make this point that it is not, you can't have all lawyers being there because our mind is skewed. You need to have an agreed person, you need to have somebody who is into finance, you need to have somebody who is in diverse areas. That's why even the committees, they have committees of various areas, security. If you limit to only lawyers and you're going to decide on something that they do not have expertise in areas of security, you will still be needing a lot more people. So not necessarily, but when you are a lawyer, you get an added advantage. You get the point clear? You get an added advantage because then you understand even how the laws are made, you know how to navigate yourself. So let me be a little bit biased. Yes, I would have wished that, being a lawyer will put you in a better situation. But it doesn't prevent you. Honorable over here was in parliament before he went to the law school and became a lawyer. So it's possible for you to have any other profession and even desire to become a lawyer. As to whether you can combine the two now, it's pretty difficult, very, very difficult. Because the law is very jealous. And I know the work of parliament is also very, very jealous in our current dispensation. Quickly, the second one. Educational qualification. Do we have to legislate on that? I think the Constitutional Review Commission considered this matter as to the educational qualification. I think that there should be some form of educational qualification. But the question somebody will ask is, you know there's a member of parliament who didn't have, I think she was, MP for, is it Akwetia? Yes, Amase. Are we getting it? So, should we just keep it open, looking at the literacy rate, or we should set a standard? Will it be discriminatory? These are matters for all of us to look at. But looking at the work that Parliament has to do, is it easy for such a person who does not attain all the educational qualifications or up to an appreciable level to even appreciate what the Parliament is going to do? I think it's a critical question we need to look at. So I may not be able to give a specific answer, but I think that we need to probably set some standard. That's what we need to look at. But having said that, it is also important for us to know that the fact that you have high academic qualifications does not necessarily mean that you are going to be the best in whatever you are doing. Are we getting the point clear? Yes. So education alone may not be. Sometimes experiences people have made them better legislators. Third question, playing a dual role as an MP and minister, it saves cost. You know what? I do not think so. I do not think so because you see, the work of a minister is very involving. And now you are seeing parliamentary absenteeism. So you are an MP, you are a minister, you are supposed to go for some meeting, you are supposed to go and inaugurate something. And you are supposed to also be in parliament. So what do you see? You see parliamentary, you see MPs who are ministers absenting themselves. And now we are getting a system where we have to even bring people in. Sometimes even when they are when they are indisposed, to be able to come for us to be able to get a vote. So if you ask me, I do not think so. Maybe it is the kind of constitution that we are doing. We are doing a hybrid system. And there's a reason why we are having a hybrid system. But it is because of the nature of our constitution. That's how come it is the way it is. So I think that even if ministers should be appointed from Parliament, it must be a very small number. It must be a very, very small number. Very, very small number. Transparency on committees. The head of the finance committee being the member of the ruling government. You know what I think? If we have people who know their duties, if we have people who know their roles, we shouldn't have any issue of transparency. Because the fact that you are in my party does not mean that I must condone and connive with you in doing the wrong things, or I must support something which is wrong. It goes against the directive principles of state policy. If we're all supposed to be following the directive principles of state policy, we'll have problems. We have ministers coming from a particular political party. They are the same colleagues who vet them, and they ask them tough questions. It doesn't mean that we should relax the rules because they are coming from our party. It makes nonsense of the work we are supposed to do as parliamentarians if we are supposed to reduce it to just party political discussions and forget about the nature or the interest of the state. So at that point in time, when you are in parliament, it's the interest of the state and not any political party's interest. So I think that is basically about it. I'll leave the issue of SAL to Honorable Attor and the E-levy issues on certificate of agency.
Thank you. So you've got your, you don't need to be a lawyer to be in parliament. In fact, at any particular time, we have not had more than 20 or 30% of MPs as lawyers. I mean, you don't need, in fact, as you said, I'm the best example. It was when I was leaving parliament that I went to law school. You don't need to. I already had my master's in political science. But like you said, there's nothing even in the constitution about academic qualifications. There's nothing there. In fact, in the first parliament, the MP for Nima had never stepped in school. But I was there for 2 terms. So I was an assemblyman and made sure that a lot of things happened there. So the people had confidence in him. It was the 10th term that he didn't stand again. So there's no, like you said, people are sitting there, they are not going to parliament. PhDs and you don't even hear from or of them. So what does that mean? Are you representing your people? Some people are busy doing business. Some people are so there's no academic qualification. But like you said, in appreciating the number of papers that are dropped in your pigeon roll for you to look at, you better go to school small. Small. SSS is okay. SS is okay. Those days, middle school is okay. You should be able to appreciate what you, and you must be determined to represent your people. You must go to the committee meetings and understand the issues. But there's no academic qualification. No, E-levy was not taken on certificate of agency, no. In fact, on the contrary, it took 6 months for E-levy to be passed. They brought it in October, and we said we were not interested. Our people said we were not interested. They tried several times. But certificate of agency is allowed in our standing orders and also in the Constitution. If sometimes you are going on break and some financial instrument has come and must be passed before you go on break. Now that Parliament is on break, they will not get there until the end of May. But maybe you needed to get, you see, when you are taking loans, we are always taking loans. You needed to pass the loans and look for the counterpart funding before you can execute a project. What do I mean by counterpart? If somebody is giving you €1 million, the euro will come into the Bank of Ghana, but you have to get the cedi equivalent of the €1 million. Do you understand? The people who do the rules are not paid in euro; they are paid in cedis. So that's what we call counterpart finding. You must look for the cedi equivalent. Sometimes, if you miss a particular time and the Euro people take their money back, you are in trouble. So whether something should come under the certificate of agency is determined by the relevant committee. Most of the time, the finance committee. The minister will come and present this particular bill and say that he wants it under certificate of agency. Then the speaker will refer it to the finance committee to go and determine whether this matter should be under certificate of agency. It is what the finance committee comes to tell the House and accepted by the House that is done. If the finance committee comes to say that, look, this matter, what is the agency in this matter? And we don't want it. And the House debates and agrees, then it will not be. But if the finance committee comes back to say, this matter, because by April ending, the facility will expire. Meanwhile, we are in March, and we will go on break and come back in May. So it is important that we take it to certificate, so that whatever should be done in 3 days, sometimes it's done within a few hours. You move a number of standing orders to take off the waiting periods. In some of these things, you have to wait for 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours. They said the thing should be before the committee for no less than 48 hours. But you come back and move on the floor that we delete that one and go according to it. So that's how come certificate of agency. But E-level, you remember eventually people walk away when was it in May or June, when they wanted the thing in October, and then it passed because we even offered them 1%, they refused. They will say 1.5%. So in fact, it started 1.75, then it came to 1.5, and our people said they will not be part of it. And when we walked away, then the deputy speaker then insisted that since the House was full before the debate, although half of the House was out, it was passed. It's a matter that is between us and them right now. And it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court agreed with the position of MPP. So E-levy was not under certificate of agency. MP ministers, he said it. It is one of the problems everybody thinks it's a problem of the Constitution. In fact, when you listen to the debates about the problem of the Constitution, it's not so much, in UK, MPs are ministers. So it's not so much the fact that MPs are, but they have arranged their thing differently. Parliament does not sit there before 2 o'clock. So everybody goes to his ministry. So you see that they always go late in the night. They sit, they have their own arrangement. But we are talking about separation of powers. You cannot be separating powers when ministers are in Parliament. Is that right? So it makes people look, MPs go to Parliament. And like Council said, they said 50% plus 4. Is it here? Oh, okay. They said 50%. So if a president is minded to appoint 20 ministers, 11 must be coming from Parliament. And while the president is minded to appoint 120, remember 120 ministers, then 62 or so 61 should be coming from Parliament. How can they be sitting in the ministry and be doing parliamentary work? So it is our structure. I think that, as I said, we have made a number of amendments. If the president wants to pick 1 or 2 people necessarily from Parliament to become his minister, he can do that. But the clause that says that at least 50% must come from Parliament has to be looked at and deleted maybe. So that is what is it? About SAL, what to do with this? One, now it is government that creates a district and it is electoral commission that creates a constituency. So just before the elections, MPP ran and created a district. But electoral commission is here to bring the instruments that will create the constituency. The last time, the deputy chairman of the electoral commission was saying they will bring it. Because they have to, if that instrument doesn't come into parliament, then one could be a district. But you see, the law also says that no constituency should straddle 2 districts. So this idea that they can be joined to just it doesn't work because they are now a district. They were all part of Homeboy district. All the SAR, the 4 towns, Santo Kofi, Akwafu, Lipe, and Lolobi, that's SAR. They were all part of Homeboy district. In fact, the lady who stood for us was from SAR, but was a DC, and another DC had come from Lipe before. So it's part of, now that you have taken them out and made a district out of them, they cannot come back and join Homeboy as a constituency. And they cannot go and join Jessica just because they are inside. They have never been part of Jessica anyway, because they are all in the team together. So we are expecting, I think the Afram has been carrying this matter very strong. We are expecting the Electoral Commission to bring the instrument. And the law says that when the instrument is brought, it is the next general election that can produce an MP. So even if they bring the instrument tomorrow, there will be no vote there until the next general election. But we are expecting that it will be done. We have an electoral commission that does what they like. But since the district has been created, they have to create the constituency. I think so. I think yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is there any more questions regarding this?
Yeah.
Is there any questions left?
Which one?
Okay, let's hear from Honorable Vincent. Which questions left?
I made mention of the assurance committee that needs to go to some.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that one, there are 2, but our standing on this, almost all the committees in parliament are chaired by the majority side, but there are 2 of them. The one that you are calling assurances committee is chaired by the minority, and then the subsidiary legislation committee is chaired by the minority. Those 2 are chaired by the minority, but the rest are all finance, local government, whatever. They are all chaired, and we have all benefited from it. I don't know whether there is any complaint about it, but the Committee of Government Assurances, yes, that's how it's called, is, I think Bejira is the chairperson right now. Bejira, go west. And then subsidiary, I think our MP from Walker Center, Ayini, he was a former Deputy Attorney General. Yeah, he is. But the rest of the 26 or so committees are normally chaired by the majority. With what we call ranking member. A ranking member is from the minority. That's the ranking member. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. I think you have a question, right? So we'll take your question and then we just have a short contribution from Mr. Bismarck, and then we'll bring this session to a close. So please use the microphone. I'm sure the microphone is working.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Felix Bakwe-Akiche, the first Deputy Speaker of this August House. We are acting as the Deputy Majority Leader. Please, my first question is there any threshold for the number of MPs that are supposed to be in Parliament? I want to know, and aside this district issue, is there any other criteria for the formation of a constituency? That's the very first one. And I think lawyers spoke about the separation of powers with the legislative arm and then the judiciary, but I'm still not clear with the issue that happened in Parliament about the position of the Deputy Speaker when the Deputy Speaker is chairing the House. Because I had a glimpse of a screenshot from the standing orders that suggests that anybody who is in the chairing capacity automatically loses the person's voting rights. So it means, regardless of who you are, if you are the one chairing, you can't be the arbiter and decided at the same time. Therefore, you lose that voting right. But the issue went to the judiciary, and then the judiciary made a ruling that is contrary to that particular provision that is in the standing orders of the House. So does that in a way suggest that the judiciary has the right to interpret the laws and even interpret the standing orders of the parliament to parliament? Is that not one way or the other making the judiciary's power to supersede that of parliament? Please, I'm not very clear on that, so I would like some clarification on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Desmantini, please get in the microphone. And then our guests will answer and then give their concluding remarks and then bring this session to a close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable guest of honor and honorables. I'm happy to join you. I've been hearing about the NINTH Parliament. And so today when I had some time, I said, well, let me come and see what you are doing. And I think you are doing a great job. As you are preparing yourself for Parliament tomorrow, I urge you to prepare yourselves in how to best be servant leaders, so that you are not only learning parliamentary proceedings through this session, but you are learning to become effective leaders who will represent the interests of your people. So I wish you all the best as you prepare to serve Ghana later. Thank you. The role of the judiciary in interpreting the provisions of law. See, every arm of government wants to guard its role very jealously. And just as we have what the court says is what the law is. We may criticize the court, we may criticize their decisions, but judges are not infallible, or the judiciary is not infallible. That is why there's even the appeal process. But having said that, it is important for us to understand that we develop or we become better when we have certain challenges like this. Then we'll have a critical look at it, see whether the law as we have it is the way it's supposed to be. Yes, somebody may say Parliament is they make their own rules and they know how to apply their own rules. But whenever there's any dispute, and I say when Parliament decides to allow things we did themselves are supposed to decide on to get to the judiciary, and the judiciary will make a determination for them. Parliament should be able to decide its own issues. So that's my answer on that question. I think your initial question, the first question was on
the threshold on the
threshold. Yes, so I remember saying that when I read the constitutional provision, it said minimum of 140. Minimum of 140. So we do not have a maximum. So until the Constitution says otherwise, which I doubt that there will be any limit on the number of constituencies that we're going to have. And there are criteria for creating a constitution. Sorry, a constituency, just as I mentioned. You're looking at the numbers, you're looking at... You don't just get up and create a constituency. You're looking at numbers and others. But looking at our penchant for increasing numbers, I think that we may be getting to a point where we may have to build another parliament. Thank you very much. Michael, very well. So I think that I want to make a point on the monetization in going to parliament. The cost involved in going to parliament. When people who have decided that they want to come and serve us would need to have people sponsoring them, getting a lot of money, campaigning, people expecting freebies from them before they go to parliament. Obviously, when people spend so much money before going to parliament, question we ask ourselves is that, is there any gold mine in Parliament where they'll be able to recoup their returns? Is there any gold mine in Parliament where they'll be able to recoup their returns? When people have to spend more than 400,000 Ghana cedis, 500,000 Ghana cedis to be able to go to Parliament to lead us, I think we need to rethink how people go to Parliament. Because generally, the perception has been that, well, once people get into Parliament and other places, well, they have access to money and others. And now let's look at the lifestyles of people who we elect them to become our leaders. We know how they work, we know where they work, we know their assets. We see the kind of lifestyle they live. All of a sudden they get into other government or they get somewhere, you realize that they are building mansions and others. What does it connote, or what does it tell the ordinary person? That this is a money-making venture, or this is where we have to go to make some money. Which may not necessarily be the case. And I'm not saying that that is what all MPs do. But the perception of the fact that we can milk the people, we have to deal with it as a country. And we also have to deal with how we make unnecessary demands, and we make demands on people who have decided to go and serve us. So it makes it look as if you do not have money, then you cannot serve us. Do we have the quality of people representing us, or we have the people who have the money who do not have the quality of the knowledge and the expertise that we need to be able to serve us? Let's rethink it. And finally, I just wish to say, the over-politicization of every single issue in our country is the bane of our lack of development. People should be having a standard or have principled positions. We should not politicize things. If we think that a particular policy that comes from any particular political party is okay, we should support it. But whilst doing that, we should have a principled stand. And as a country, we must constantly pursue our national development agenda. When somebody asks, what's the Ghanaian dream? We seem to be missing as the Ghanaian dream. We have political dreams. Are those dreams mirages? We need to think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now let me quickly, is it that decision of the Supreme Court? As I said, when the Supreme Court decides whether you like it or not, you must comply with it. But it is one decision that we have serious problems with. And we know that at the appropriate time, it will go back to the Supreme Court. There's something called the political question, which means that as much as possible, Parliament should be allowed to decide their own way of doing things. And it has been applied from the very beginning. There are a lot of cases from very long ago. When it gets to Supreme Court, they normally will take the position that this one is in the domain of Parliament. But this particular matter, where a speaker says that he could be, a deputy speaker says, I am speaker, but I can go and vote. How can you be a moderator? And even so, if you were not part of the voice vote, you say as many as so and so. So you should say aye, another group should say no. If you didn't participate in the voice vote, and they are going to count those who have voted, how will you go and vote? Do you understand? You put a question. Somebody challenged your finding, and they said the only way we can resolve it is by the show of hands or by counting. Because you were sitting in there, you couldn't have answered no or yes. But you want to go and join those who have said yes. It doesn't make sense. But somehow, for the first time, the Supreme Court ignored the judicial question and gave a ruling. We are not very comfortable with it. In fact, we had a seminar and almost all the lawyers were thinking that something was wrong with it. But it's a ruling of the court. That is how come they can sit in there when it comes to vote, then they go and vote. But the speaker is not allowed to vote. And anybody who is sitting in there and is being addressed as Mr. Speaker, they don't vote. So maybe we have to go back to South Africa. They don't call deputy speakers Mr. Speaker. They call them Mr. Deputy Speaker. Then you know your limit. You know that you are not a speaker. You are a deputy speaker, and therefore you are a party, you are representing your party. And therefore you can go and vote with them. I think when you come to the back, Supreme Court, as it said, can review their own decisions. No other court can review Supreme Court decisions, but the Supreme Court itself, another panel, can meet later and review their own decisions. So it's one matter that I think we go back to. As for the monetization, it's a serious problem. And all of us, NPP, NDC, all the parties, we need to do something. We need to do something about it. It wasn't so when we started this whole business. When we say lifestyle of MPs change, don't calculate that with the land cruiser, because that one is a loan. When MP is using a broken down joker against the parliament, it's going to be earning at least 10 or 11,000. All the banks rush there to give them loan, and they pay. So now it's difficult to come to home if you don't have 10,000, if you don't have 1,000 out. You know, so it's not that one. Maybe it's just a status symbol, but it doesn't really mean anything. If anybody is there putting up plenty of houses, they have to find out where he's getting the money from. But for the land cruiser, sometimes it's not even for us, it's for the state. Sometimes you take the loan and you cannot finish paying. So when they pay you your ex-gratia, and it's something we'll have to talk about, almost 50 to 60% of it goes into clearing those loans. So when they complain about MPs, do you see them living in opulence when they leave parliament? No, that money doesn't come to you. No, that money. And we can stop the ex-gratia thing, like we are proposing. You don't take it as many times as you are living. I mean, if I take it, then I go back to find my things. No, it shouldn't be done that way. Secondly, what happens really is that, I'll give you my own example. When we got into parliament, we had 500 cities or so that they were paying. You know, they were paying something little. First, second parliaments, we were paying some very little money. But when Kofi came, Kofi set up another committee. The first one was Green Street. And they gave us 500 to buy a car. Everybody bought a second-hand car at the time. And then by the third year, everybody was pushing his car. And by the fourth year, there were no cars coming to parliament again. Yeah, I mean, those of us who started, we were really dealing with it. But what, you see, Article 71, they said the government, the president should set up a committee to determine the emolument. These presidents, they don't ever do it until their second term or something. Right now, I don't know whether Akufo-Addo has set up a new one. So if you are getting 5 cities, and the committee is set up in the last year, because Kofi set his up in 2008. So it was backdated to 2001. So me, 2010, although I was not in parliament, I was paid money that was due me for the first 4 years when they were giving, and they said they are paying you on account. Now your salary has been determined. And when your salary has been determined, it has to start from when you started going to parliament. So that is what they do. If the presidents can set up these things early enough, then there's nothing to be paid to anybody after 4 years. I hope you understand. But right now they do that. And luckily for the MPs, they use it to pay for their loans. And then at the end of the day, they come home and we are all, they are driving the car, but they can't buy fuel. Yeah. So that's what happens. I hope presidents will set up the committees early enough for MPs' salary to be determined, and then he's paid. So that by the time he's leaving parliament, there's nothing for him to come and collect again. Because after the money, when he goes to the bank, the Nigerian banks, they come literally to you begging you. Do you want a loan? We will give you. And 3 of them will come. If you are not careful, you can take the loan from the 3 and see what happens to you. Anyway, so by closing the mic, I think this is a good exercise. And as I said, try and get a lot more people involved. Make announcements, even those who are not part of the parliament. If they come and sit here, people who have come, we call it gallery. If they come and sit there and listen to a lecture like this, is it not okay for them? Because after knowledge, I said it here, it is what you will be tomorrow depends on what you read or what you have heard others say. It is not, some of the things we say, it's not like we have read them, we have also heard others say them. And that's what will build you for tomorrow. So don't limit this thing to yourselves alone, get all this knowledge. Invite the people on the campus, go to HTU, invite the workers, invite that on Sunday afternoon, this particular thing will be happening, and and they should come and listen. And bring those of your members who are MPs. If they are not available, please replace them, and let's have a fuller house the next time we come. I have a 1,000 cedi check for you. It's for refreshment. It's a check. So you have to do these things on credit and collect the money tomorrow and pay. I'll give it to Harriet to collect it. Harriet, let it go to where it should go to properly, immediately, so that tomorrow morning they can pick this check. You have to support your refreshment when you come here. I wish you well.
We have changed our mind.
So, thank you very much for addressing one of the speaker. Majority Leader, any indications?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and guest. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank our guests for the knowledge they've shared with us so far. Day in and day out, we continue to learn. We wish to apologize on behalf of our members who are absent. Some are students and are weekend students, majority of them. So some of our writing makes sense and some are in class currently. But notwithstanding that, we still hold the view that more people must be invited for us to be having a full house. Because what we've learned today, probably we might not be getting the opportunity to learn what we have learned today anymore. So should it happen that more people will be here, it would have served a very good purpose. Mr. Speaker, whilst we admonish ourselves, I equally want to appeal to our big fathers. This is an opportunity for us to learn and grow. But look like the big boys, the politicians are not helping us. The oversight role that they have to play to develop us, they are not helping us. Why do I say that? The purpose for forming Youth Impact Parliament was to groom responsible future leaders. But Jones and myself, before we initiated this, we've been of the argument that all the youth political space is gradually becoming the grounds for breeding corrupt and heartless leaders. In our S houses, in our TEI, in our TESCOMs, in our NASPA, and all those grounds. And then you realize that if you don't have a political godfather who is a big man that has money to support you, you can't pull through, even though you have proper intentions for the people. A particular example was in Kumasi in 2021 during the NASPA National Congress. A colleague of ours who was contesting for national president was able to share 1,000 Ghana cedis per delegate by 60 people. So I was wondering, where did he get that money from? Because we all completed the same year. And then we've only been able to pay, they only paid us 3 months allowance after that material time. So where is he getting that particular amount of money from? So we want to appeal to you people that once we are also fighting within our space to be able to get things moving for the future to be better, the big boys, the politicians also should be guiding us so that brother, we can be able to eradicate the monetization of policies within the system. Because the way things are looking, if we don't stand firm, it will lose career in the next 10 years when we are about to take over. And then the future that we are planning Ghana for, we will not be able to attain it. Mr. Speaker, on that note, I thank them all very much for coming, and then we wish to see them very much. And also we want to thank Honorable Kofi Attor very much for the item 13. But we've changed our mind, we won't bring the symbolism. So we will eat something there. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Acting Minority Legislations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I go by the name Francis Kodzi, Youth MP for Afram Place North. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that I am very happy being here today. I would have missed these great lectures. But I want to thank our guests also for impacting such knowledge into us. Probably we may not get this in the classroom. The lecture will come back, and then it goes. But this one, with patience and explanations, everything has been properly explained. And I believe that this is going to go a long way to help us. And I want to tell my other colleagues that this is an opportunity for us, and we must take positive advantage of it. And we must also understand some of these things as well. And I want to lay emphasis on the fact that, Mr. Speaker, as Honorable said, we must arrange and go to the Parliament House next time.
Thank you very much.
Honourable members, we will suspend the House in the next minute. May I say that by Adugu coming here, we should have been paid for consultation fee. Yes. But he came here to explain the things for us at a free cost, and that is the money that we will not be able to pay. So, lawyer, I want to thank you very much for coming. We are very grateful for your attention and then the time that you have come to speak here. Our father, Honorable Kofi Attor, we know we have disappointed in the numbers, but within our hearts, we are trying our best, and we hope that the situation will improve the next time that you come. I want to thank you very much for your patience. You came waiting for almost an hour. Yes. So I want to thank you so much for the guidance and then even the financial support. Thank you very much. Honourable members, on this note, happy second anniversary to all of us. Cheers. Honourable members, the House is now to be suspended for 10 minutes.
You your speaker will like picture. I don't like that.
Please, let's take pictures.
Don't close it. Hey, boy, yeah. Please don't add me there. I don't take pictures on Sunday.
Please take a Leave it. Thank you.
I'll stop one. Another one.
Very tall. You guys in your head.
I am not tomorrow. We call you.
Happy 2 years. 2 years. Everybody 2 years. Everybody 2 years.
No, Papa is in the head. Hey, cameraman.
Full picture.
Honourable members, welcome back. Honourable members, order in the house. Welcome back to the sitting, and we hereby proceed with normal business.
Yes, I'm thinking.
Honourable members, the celebration still continues, but honourable members, during the first session, you were not given the opportunity to give your view on our 2 years and the way forward. And that is what we are coming to do. And we want to do it in a way that when you take the mic, we talk about YIP and a little about emotion. There will be no banter of thoughts. We just want to hear from everyone, because this is a celebration. We need to know our flaws and how we can work on them. So we are just going to do a very short session. Each person will have an opportunity to speak. You are speaking on YIM 2 years anniversary, and then a little about emotion. And then another person will give the opportunity. Then when all of you are done, we'll bring it to a close with the ruling and then the house. So we'll start. I want to start from, we need to start from one side of the house. And I think today, as you can see, the house has been arranged in a horseshoe arrangement. And this is the first time it is happening in this auditorium. So, a horseshoe, obviously, you have to move from one side to the other. So, we are going to start from the minority side. Please relax and then talk about the issues so that we are recording it. We want to analyze and then get back and then better ourselves. Okay? So please remember, there will be no banter of thoughts. When you introduce yourself, who you are, about, then you talk about why I am in these branches, then you talk about emotion. So we'll start first with Honourable Afram, Acting First Deputy Speaker, to take the chair.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. I respect Gilbert, my family, youth MP for Academy North constituency, and the acting minority leader for today's sitting. Mr. Speaker, as we first started this youth impact parliament, where they is having a matter of being a youth impact movement, and also a foundation, and now one also being the youth impact parliament, being under the youth impact movement. It's been a great privilege for me, the youth, particularly me, to be in this August house and also learn things that I wasn't privy to initially. Mr. Speaker, or Madam Speaker, I was part of the pilot session of this youth impact parliament, and then being part of the first and then the second parliament, I've learned great lessons, great seminars from people in our society and a lot of individuals, even my colleagues in the Parliament House here. Madam Speaker, notwithstanding, I will say on authority that this youth impact parliament is having a great future, and where we are heading towards, and people that are giving us what insights, giving us what the parliamentary settings, how democracy started in Ghana. We've learned some of those things here, all under the umbrella of youth impact movement and youth impact parliament. I am actually grateful. So on today's motion, being 30 years of uninterrupted parliamentary democracy, effective citizen participation, attainable or political slogan. To the best of my knowledge, I would say citizens participation is not attainable yet because people that are there are not given we the citizens to what also partake fully or what also take our views on what the happenings in the country. Because when things that we all see clearly that one is not supposed to choose a particular line because of the people in power. I don't know whether it's power drunk or there's a saying that the majority always have their way. Even though the minority have their say which is correct, and the say is that they must go according to what they say. But the majority always would have their say, and then politicians are also what? Playing on us. So, Madam Speaker, effective citizen participation in our democracy is not yet what attainable, but just a slogan in the country. Thank you.
You want to have a word, right?
No, go on, Madam Speaker.
Please, you can go on ahead with your submission.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and the House. My name is Francis Kodzi, a youth MP for Afram Place North. Madam Speaker, it is a privilege being part of this movement. It is a great joy to be part of this initiative. Being a young guy, a young person who have the dream of becoming a future leader or a leader, or who also have that leadership positions, I can say that this platform has really done a great job for me. By all the things that I learned from here, I have seen a great change even in my leadership role at workplace and other places that I stand in as a leader. So I would say that Youth Impact Movement has really done a great job for us, and I want to thank the founders for creating this platform. Madam Speaker, regarding to the motion of the day, that permits me to boldly read it from the other paper. 30 years of uninterrupted parliamentary democracy, effective citizen participation, attainable or political slogan. Madam Speaker, I will just say that this is a mere slogan. From the things we see, from the things we have experienced, from what we can attain or look at after all these 30 years, what has been the impact, what has been the work, what has been done, what can we point at after the 30 years, what are some of the things that we can boast of. This is just a common slogan that everybody can sit anywhere and say. Because with the number of years that we have and the things that we are saying, we can see that it is rather a 30 years of people making their pockets rich. It is a 30 years of people making their families rich. It is a 30 years of leaders making their friends rich. But not a 30 years of building a strong youth. Not a 30 years of creating good jobs. Not a 30 years of proper development. So how can we say, or how can we boast of this achievement? This can't be any achievement for us to boast of, but it can just be a mere slogan. Thank you very much, Mr. Madam Speaker.
You are back from the motion. You say? I didn't say anything.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
My name is NP for Akisui. Okay. With Youth MP, I realize that it's a good initiative. So we applaud the founders and the co-founders and their advisors for bringing this on board. It's not only per se you aim of being a political person, but it's grooming us even at your workplace, how to talk, when to talk and when not to talk, and also to control your workers or whoever you are leading. So we want to thank everyone for making this journey of 2 years being successful. And we urge others who are listening to us, others who wish to be part of us, our doors are open to come to us. And moving to the motion, without not reading, I realize that it's just a slogan, as my colleague, Leonard colleague said. It's just a slogan. So moving forward, we should be able to do something proper. As we are coming out, our followers or whoever will lead in the future, as we know that what they are doing is not the best, so we have to correct that. So I want to plead with all the YouTubers here, as we are climbing up to be SRC president, be assemblyman one day, wherever position you are, please don't repeat what your forefathers are repeating. Let us make the way for our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Speaker House. My name is Dixon Price Seller, MP for all constituency. Speaker, 2 years anniversary of Youth Party movement. But can you permit me to digress to the Youth Party Foundation? I have some things to say. Yes, as the Youth Party Parliament, we are moving on stage of the party. We have, in one way or the other, integrated the Youth Party Foundation, which is set purposely for humanitarian work. And I believe all what we are doing by the European Party, we need to also look at the other side as well. So, Mr. Speaker, I think today should give us some kind of lesson that we have to revisit the Youth Party so that the same meaning that we assume to the Youth Parliament should be transferred to that of the Youth Party Foundation, so that at the end of the day, we have a full movement. And also, Mr. Speaker, the motion before us, 30 years of undivided parliamentary democracy. What I want to say is that yes, we have come a long way. 30 years is not an easy thing. By then, I was not born, but I came to notice. So let's jealously protect this end. I believe in the session of the debate, when you just be looking at the impact and correct where we need to correct. And I remember I said, enough of the banter and all those things. Let's look at where there's a need for us to amend so that we get forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're moving to the majority leader.
We always want to take a call from this. Very nice.
My name is YIP, the MP for Afram and Caucus. It is a great initiative. I think this is one of the most active parliaments we've ever had. In Ghana, specifically. Yes, please. So as it stands now, I would like to say that small when we love the patients, we need to add Kakashi. There is a lot going on in the country which we youth can stand in front of it and work for. The taxes which our current government is imposing on us, we need to at least stand and demonstrate for all those things. I don't think with all these trackers of the economy now, we will have a better future tomorrow. We will have to stand on our feet and work better so that our tomorrow will be
better than today.
Will still be available for our devices. I don't think we have tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Hon Jones Amegashie-Viglo, for Afram constituency. Madam Speaker, following this movement for some time now, I think it has been practical as the name goes. It's putting a lot into the lives of the youth, which are tomorrow's future. So I think for us to attain that height of which we are seeing others or other big men now, we can also be there. We can also be there as we are learning the skills today. We can also be there tomorrow. So I would just like to encourage each and everyone part of this movement should take it serious, devote this time to it. People who wish to join us will come. I warmly welcome to join us so that we can together make this happen to grow a better future for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you very much, the Speaker and honorable members. My name is Felix Pape Adiche, and I am the first Deputy Speaker of this House. And today I'm acting as the Deputy Majority Leader. I am representing the very good people, the beautiful and handsome people from the constituency with the highest number of tourist attractions. If you don't agree, argue with yourself. The Afajato South constituency. People of God, I want to especially congratulate all of us for making it this far. 2 years is not an easy journey. And you know, there are other initiatives like this that people start, but along the line, happenings happen, and then it tends to, the dream gets cut short at a point. But through the toil and effort of each and every one of us, we have seen 2 years. And 2 years will be 2,000 years very soon. Hallelujah. Amen. So I want to actually commend all of us for our effort and equally implore all of us that going forward, let's try our best. Let's devote ourselves to do more for this organization. And I bet you we will all be or meet at the top there, and then we'll be proud of what we did 2 years ago and today. Speaking about the motion which is before the House, please, somebody should help me with the other paper. So, 30 years of uninterrupted parliamentary democracy, effective citizen participation, attainable or political slogan. Honestly, I heard the other side of the House talk about the whole thing being a political slogan. Well, it is an achievement that we have enjoyed 30 years of uninterrupted parliamentary democracy. When we say uninterrupted, it means we are talking about the fact that there's been no war or any coup along the line, which we all understand. If there is war or there is coup, it means the whole country will come to an unrest situation, which we all don't want to really see. But regardless of the fact that we are actually enjoying this uninterrupted parliamentary democracy, there's a lot of problems that have been associated with the parliamentary democracy we are having now. So that is why we don't appreciate its effectiveness. So going forward, I think there's a lot of talks in the media space already about how we can better make our parliamentary democracy one that will be effective and efficient to us and help us grow. So all these inputs that are coming from diverse sources, I think we have to inculcate all of them into our constitution and the likes, so that we will not only be enjoying uninterrupted parliamentary democracy that is actually not doing us well for enjoyment's sake, but we will equally enjoy it and then benefit from it, grow from it, develop from it, and one day we will equally be a world power just like the countries we admire. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and the guest house. Madam Speaker, I respond to Amanor David now. Youth MP for Ningo Prampram constituency. All of you know what we are for, and you know what we already had. Not like people who probably want to brag about what they don't have, that they want everybody to know that they have. That's just by the way, Madam Speaker. To proceed, Youth in Parliament are a camp far, and I'm happy by what we have been able to attain so far. If for nothing at all, some of us were in UPS the last 2 weeks for a joint sitting between the two parliaments from HTU, University of Ghana, Wisconsin, UPSA. Since there were 5 other institutions there. I realized that those of us who came from Whole Technical University, we were intellectuals as well as Takashi people. We showed them that irrespective of their law and whatever they were doing, when it comes to parliamentary business, we are more abreast than they are. All is borne up by some of us that we are here as well as the SRC Parliament. We've been taking the opportunity upon ourselves to learn. If for nothing at all, Youth in Parliament in time past has produced SRC executives. But the sad reality is that once they get to wherever they are, they don't return back to Youth in Parliament where they start from. There are exceptions. Honorable Agbeli, before he contested for FO, he was here. He has been with us throughout. Likewise, Vincent by Salon, before he contested for Vice President, he was here, and then he has been here throughout, even after handing over. So this is how we want it to look like. Though we are learning, but if we don't take the things that we are doing seriously, the future is not bright. I hold the argument every now and then that we are not the future leaders. Unless probably a miracle happens that all of us will change our ways of doing things. I know Kofi Attor spoke about the attendance. Look at how many times publicity has been conducted as far as this particular sitting is concerned. Continuously, Hon Jones does it, we all do it. So what is preventing us? So in as much as we are all applauding ourselves for 2 years, consolidating the gains that we've made against the losses. Maybe the gains will outnumber the losses, but the losses must be minimal, so that we cannot be able to grow our population. There was, aside the immigration sitting, that the population we had was, encouraging. Aside that, we have never had any other sitting that the population was beyond 30, always below 25. Even the virtual seminars and then the virtual sitting that we held the other time, it became problematic. So the attendance is key. One thing that I always say is that by no one's persuasion, you became a youth MP. And then no one should be forcing you to come here. All of us, I'm sure all of us that we are seated here carrying. If for nothing at all we don't have anything to do, we can sleep. We can sleep and be resting for tomorrow, or be preparing ourselves for class or work. But this is what we've called for ourselves. This is what we've told ourselves that we will be doing. And that is what we are. So Youth in Parliament is making the gains. We are gaining the grounds. Honorable Jones currently is student parliamentary caucus consultant. I'm his assistant, but the pay doesn't come that much. So there's no pay at that much. But we are managing the space so that we can be able to share diverse knowledge as far as parliamentary business is concerned. Madam Speaker, to proceed. On the issue of the motion on the floor, people are misinterpreting the motion that probably it should be under discussion. Honorable Kofi Attor spoke about the constitutions we had and how long they've been able to live as far as the test of time is concerned. The first one, the 1951 was barely 4 years, it was overthrown. The 1954 one to independence, some were less than 2 years, it was overturned. From 1992 all the way to 2023, 31 years, we've been able to transition through all those periods. And probably those who are not aware, in the year 2000, majority of the big men flew from Ghana, including Duncan Williams, because everybody was terrified that President Kufuor had won the elections and former President Rawlings of blessed memory will not be handing over power to him. Because everybody that knows him coming from the military regime knows that this is how he is. But Rawlings had peacefully handed over power to Kufuor, and then we had a smooth transition of change of government. There had been no there was no war. In 2012, when we went to elections, the NPP felt that the election had a lot of malpractice as far as the election was concerned. They didn't take to the streets. They didn't do it. They went to court. It lasted for 8 months. The judges gave their decision 5-4 on the bench. Narh and the NPP took it, and Ghana was peaceful. In June 2012, Professor Mills died, and then there was smooth transitioning of power from, let's say, the dead Professor Mills to John Mahama. Few hours the passage of the then president, and the whole world eyes were on Ghana. We've come far. We are seeing what is happening in Mali. We are seeing what is happening in Guinea. I'm not sure, probably some of you are aware of the current happening in Sudan currently. There's a military takeover in Sudan. Probably you have not heard the issues because it has not yet escalated. The military, the presidential palace had been hijacked. The airport had been hijacked. Probably when you go back, you can read about Sudan. This is where we have come far. Ghana is the beacon of democracy in the whole of Africa and beyond. Yeah. So when we have the argument that 30 years of parliamentary democracy, it is not just a political talk. Probably we can have another discussion of whether it has yielded results as far as development is concerned or not. But as far as the smooth running of the country, that we have peace. Probably you don't know that peace is the most precious commodity as far as every governance is concerned. Look at the Middle East. Afghanistan, wasn't it? Iraq and the likes. Libya, just look at Libya. Look at how prosperous Libya was before. Born out of war. Look at the state of Libya currently. Born out of war. Look at what happened in Ivory Coast. And I'm sure, born out of military takeover, we are seeing what is happening in Mali, Guinea, and the likes. So, as far as I'm concerned, the 30 years of uninterrupted parliamentary democracy is making headways. Though we have our own banters as far as the two sides are concerned, they fight on issues, they disagree to agree, but when it comes to the interest of the people, you hardly hear of them. It is only issues of political interest that probably you hear of them in the chamber. I don't know what probably when you heard about what's the name? What's the name? No, the 30, sorry, yeah. The 38 MPs also can be cited. Professor Michael Quay's election also can be cited as well. So, we are making headway. As far as parliamentary democracy is concerned, the 30 years was very fruitful. It was not just a political talk. Those who drafted the constitution and then Professor, what's the name? Former President Rawlings also did a good work that is, though he has died up to now, transitioning from military rule into democratic rule and handing over power when his tenure was over was the best thing that happened to Ghana, probably after Nkrumah, or probably, I don't know, yesterday. I may say that. So, the uninterrupted parliamentary democracy that we had was not just a political talk. Maybe you can translate it to development. We can come and look at that in another discussion. But as far as I'm concerned, we've made a lot of gains than losses as far as the 30 years of our constitution is concerned. Madam Speaker, on that note, I thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Honorable. Please. Okay.
The Youth MP for Sydney constituency. Today marks 2 years anniversary of the Youth Impact Parliament, and I'm very, very happy to be part of this anniversary because God at those days, whilst I came to HTU, Once I joined the SRC Parliament, in fact, I don't even know how to move a motion. You see people like Amanor talking, you'll be like, hey, so how come are they talking like that? So I'm like, hey, so can I also talk like that? But by the help of Youth Impact Parliament, I've learned a lot. How to talk, how to move a motion, and a lot. Yeah, even recently we just organized our TA, that's Faculty of Engineering. I took the house to the informal section. Through that, I stood for the first deputy speaker. Whilst I contested, nobody contested me. Just because of how I spoke during the informal section. So whilst I stood here, they just said, oh, you there, nobody will contest you. So I just want to say a very big thank you to Honorable Jones, who is the Speaker of Youth Impact Parliament, gave me the opportunity to preside as the Speaker also, and I also feel how the presiding goes. So I would like to say a happy anniversary to the Youth Impact members. Thank you very much.
So much, Honorable. Honorable Secretary, please share with us what are your thoughts?
I respond to the name Amegashie Viglo, Deputy Clerk Publicity. Always important. Okay, from my experience with Youth Impact Parliament, I've learned a lot. How to speak in public, how to address issues as a parliamentary terms, and how to have that kind of boldness and courage to contest. So as of now, I'm contesting for team president, and I'm hoping to win.
You win. Jesus name.
Amen. So on this note, I just want to thank the Youth Impact Parliament for all that they've done. I've really learned a lot, and I will continue to learn. Thank you.
I've done Youth Impact Parliament 4 months now, and I may say that it has impacted a lot in me. I can be able to speak in public, address issues very well. But the only challenge I would say is that we don't respond to our time here. So let's try and then work on that.
Please, you didn't share with us the motion on the ground. Can you share something with us, please? Now you can, address issues. So kindly share something with us. We'll be very grateful. Honorable Secretary, you didn't share something with us. So kindly, share something with us, please. Yes, please.
For the motion, state that 30 years of uninterrupted parliamentary democracy, effective citizens' participation, attainable or political slogan. In my view, it's a great journey though. 30 years is not easy. But there are some loopholes that we need to work on.
So much. Honorable. Yes. Please share something with that. You just told us that this has helped you. So share something with that.
If Joseph
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker in the House. My name is Hon Jones Amegashie-Viglo, youth MP for Amanor constituency, and a member of a lot of committees. In fact, majority keep of this August House. 2 years now after joining YIP, and we can all attest to the fact that in promoting parliamentary democracy, it is a course for all of us to learn from the scratch, so that we will not be, tarnishing the image or criticizing our MPs at the top there. So I believe YIP being in the system for 2 years, it has been a great experience, and in fact, a learning curve. Now, 30 years of uninterrupted democracy. Right, Honorable Speaker, you can all attest to the fact that, as Mr. Attor rightly said, this is the longest saving constitution that we ever had in the history of the Fourth Republic. And back or gone are the days that we engage in coups and all those stuff. This particular constitution does not suffer anything of that nature. And we pledge, going forward, looking at some loopholes that are affecting the progress, the course of us as a citizens, as a country, should be amended and then see the way forward. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Honorable, please, if not, introduce yourself to us. You know part of us. Sure. You know part of us. Please kindly introduce yourself to us. And also share with us introduce yourself to us. Thank you.
I'm a representative of Watson. And I was the first deputy clerk for the city of NINTH Parliament. And I'm currently back at the company, but not officially part of NINTH Parliament yet. I'm yet to be, created into NINTH Parliament again.
Okay, thank you so much. You've also been in the house with us, and you know the motion on the ground. Kindly share with us your thoughts on the motion, please. Oh, really?
English is the problem.
Oh, kindly, if I get any of the
English is the problem.
That's okay. Thank you so much for your attention. Okay. Okay, so thank you so much for your attention and thank you so much for your contribution. Okay, so I would also love to share my thoughts on the 2 years of journey. 2 years isn't easy, and then trust me, this parliament has been through a whole lot. Even you in the house, just 1 month doing something is not easy, but 2 good years. Personally, I've gained a lot of experience being here. Trust me, Mr. Speaker has been on me for several months, and now you have to be. I always give him, esteem, but me being here, I've realized that in fact, it was, a good thing to be here. So I want to use this beautiful opportunity to say big thank you to the founder of this youth MP Parliament for the beautiful thing that they've done so far, bringing all these amazing youth, men and women in the house. Obviously, we are all going to be the future leaders, for this beautiful country. So, Honorable, we are so grateful for this beautiful opportunity, for bringing all of us together. Thank you so much. And also to contribute to the motion on the ground. Well, I wouldn't say that this 30 years of uninterrupted parliamentary democracy, effective citizen participation, attainable of political slogan. Trust me, this is not just political slogan. It's kind of good years. There has been constant peace and, understanding. Well, we might all have our own, problems, one way or the other. But as far as there is peace, let's appreciate that. Even if nothing at all, yeah, of course, we need jobs, we need so many things of which we are not getting. But peace alone is enough. So as far as we have peace, let's appreciate that. So on that note, this hasn't been easy and it has been a great journey, but we have to thank God for how far He has brought us on this journey. And on this note, I end my comments. So I call on Honorable Speaker to take the seat. Thank you so much.
Honorable members, the back into the chair. It has been a long the one to adjourn. So I'll be ending the plenary session. Youth Impact Movement will be of each 2 years, but officially on 22nd April 2023. And I want to thank you all for coming together for us to make this a reality. Honourable members, order in the house. I need your uninterrupted attention. No. Honourable members, I want to thank all for your commitment. Notable and worthy of emulation and present here, starting from the minority side, is Honourable Hubert Agbeli, who has been here since day one, as Honourable Amanor said. Although he was the finance officer of the SRC, he was still coming to city. And that is a sign of true commitment. Honourable Hubert, thank you. Another one, notable of emulation, is Honourable Dixon Bricello, who has also been here from the Pilots Parliament, and he has been consistent and dedicated. He was the SRC Vice President, but was coming. Thank you very much. Another person worthy of emulation is Honourable Wanda Nicodemus Jamusi, who has been here since day one and is still here. Thank you very much. He was the SRC Chief Justice, and he has still been coming. Another one notable of all emulation is Honourable Felix Pater Adiche. Honourable Felix Pater Adiche. He has been here since day one. Even the Pilots Parliament, he was the one who saw me to office when he was here. Senior Speaker of the House. Thank you very much. Another person worthy of emulation is Mr. Enoch Najo. He has also been here. He has also been here since day one. He was the Marshal of Parliament since day one. And I want to thank him for his commitment. Another person worthy of emulation. Amanor will be the last person.
Oh yes, last is our.
Another person worthy of emulation is Miss Benedicta Jeke, who is the Finance Director of Youth Impact Movement.
she? A very shy one.
She's the one walking away.
Yeah, she's very shy. Yeah,
very
shy.
shy.
But why should she shy?
Yes, she has been with us since day one.
Is she not the big the one?
And we are grateful. To talk of honorable units, she has also been with us from day one, but later on left us. So she's the prodigal daughter of the house. But honorable units, thank you very much for your commitment. And then my co-founder himself, Mr. Honorable, Right Honorable, and all the titles if you like.
Yes.
Amanor.
Yeah. I'm from Ningo, Peru. Wait. Peru. Hey. Peru.
Yes. We are grateful for your commitment because that would have, we can even have a co-founder who will not be committed. So it is notable for us to celebrate you. Along the line, we also have committed people like Honorable Cyril Amebo, Honorable Billy Agoso, Honorable Enoch Sodoji, Honorable Mark Donovan, Honorable Fianco Samson, Honorable Mary Tetega, and also the first to act in the capacity of Speaker in the Second Parliament, Honorable Deborah Manaba Kyria.
The lady from the majority side with nice English. No lady from the minority can speak that kind of English. And she's having national on top of it.
Yes, and also, yes, I am actually acknowledging people present here. Okay.
Yes, how can it be acknowledged?
How can a minority be dictating to you?
Honourable members, for the members in absentia, if I want to acknowledge the members in absentia who have committed and have done their best, we will not close today.
Yes,
so the only thing I want to say is God bless them all. From the top to the down, who have been committed but are not here today. God bless them all for their commitment. God bless you all for your commitment. I'm just going to give a short input on the motion, and it's very short. Today, I met a statesman of which I was talking about. I was trying to get the house organized, and then we were speaking on phone, and then after that, he decided to give his comment. In his view, it is citizenry participation that has gotten us here for 30 years when we interrupted parliamentary democracy. In a sense, he says that we can do coup anytime. There can be uprising anytime. But it is because the citizens decide to wait for the legitimate time for a change to be made. Because what is happening, anything can happen. Anything can happen, from sabotage to all of them. Because it appears the government is not living up to expectations. But it is because of the right to vote. That is why we have 30 years. But in the opinion of others, it has really been a political slogan. As I said, we are not going to battle this. So there will be no ruling on this. On this note, I want to thank you all officially. God bless you. Other members, the bow is a sign of respect that is given by the Speaker to members. We are learning. So, in that one, I call Majority Leader, motion for adjournment.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. In the absence of any further discussion and deliberation, I solely move for the adjournment of this sitting until further notice. Thank you very much.
Honourable member, please, we are not adjourning Senator. We are moving the motion for adjournment to the 10th sitting in May.
To further notice.
No, we are not adjourning Senator, so I will not accept that motion. Motion disqualified.
Calm down.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker in the House. Mr. Speaker, in the absence of any further deliberation, I so move for the adjournment of this sitting to the 10th sitting at a date that will be communicated later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minority Leader. Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I respond to the name Gilbert Agbahode, Youth MP for Akachi North Constituency.
You don't know this.
I humbly second the motion moved by Majority Leader.
The short leader.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, order in the House. Honorable members, motion moved and successfully seconded. I humbly put the question to the House. All honorable members in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Not in favor of the motion say nay. Nay. Honorable members, I'm going to put the question to you. All honorable members in favor of the motion for adjournment say aye. Aye. Not in favor of the motion say nay. Nay. Honorable members, I think the ayes have it.
You are not thinking well.
I think the ayes have it. The motion is carried. Therefore, this House stands adjourned to the 10th sitting to be scheduled and be held in May.
See how they stick there, that boy is something.
They go do that mistake. They have a ticket according to
Dixon.
The song.
good man.
Yeah.
Mr. Gaisa president.